and we have the technology. We need the will to bring this type of innovative testing to our K through 12s and to our universities and colleges.
That was Dr. Deborah Birx of the White House speaking with our colleague Kevin Cirilli earlier today. And now it's time for a market check with Charlie Pellet.
Hi, thank you very much. Here's what's going on, David Weston. Most stocks lower. Airlines, hotels, particularly hard hit amid signs that the world economy has a long way to go to get back on track. Largest tech shares, though, they are outperforming. Here's where we stand. S&P 500 index down 7, down 0.2%. The Dow down 176, down 0.7. NASDAQ up 20, a gain there of 0.2%. Microsoft, Apple, Facebook all pushing higher there. 10-year yield 0.64%. Gold up 0.7%. 17.96 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude 40.82 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From New York, this is Balance of Power. I'm David Weston. People of color are greatly underrepresented in the C-suites and boardrooms of corporate America as a whole. But the situation may be even worse out in Silicon Valley. Welcome now, Matt Carter. He's CEO of Aryaka. It's a global cloud networking company. Thanks so much for being with us, Matt. And I know it's a more complicated description of your company, but that does it for most of us. Give us a sense, though, of Silicon Valley and how bad things are when it comes to diversity, and particularly with respect to African Americans and Hispanics, for that matter.
Yeah, well, thanks, David. Well, it's pretty obvious that there's low representation, and so it really begs the question as to why is that? And a lot of it, quite frankly, has to do with just complacency and sort of the institutional practices that many of these corporations have. They go to the same well and catch the same sorts of fish and have been unwilling to broaden their outreach efforts. And so when you see that type of practice that's institutionalized and there's a lack of sort of urgency in trying to change those practices, you end up with the result that you see out here in Silicon Valley. Very few African Americans and Latinas in these corporations. And so one of the ways in which to sort of address this is to really call out their hiring practices and change the paradigm, and open it up and go out and try to recruit many talented African Americans and Latinas who are just not being outreached to.
Do we need to have a quota? I mean, I clerked for Justice Powell, and we were always against quotas. But as a practical matter, to get this thing done, do you need that? I mean, Goldman Sachs is a backer, I believe, of your company as well. They've now said they're not going to take companies public, as I understand, unless there's some diversity in the board, right?
That's correct. So quotas has a real polarizing connotation. And I don't necessarily think you need quotas as much as I think you should be more open-minded around having a more diverse slate of candidates. I believe that if you had a more diverse slate of candidates, that you will invariably see that there are a lot of talented women, African Americans, Hispanics, and that they can compete toe-to-toe with, all the other folks who are being considered for those jobs. But the problem is that when you're not even in the consideration set, when you're not even being given a look at, that you end up just choosing from the same suite of people versus opening it up and saying, hey, let's have more of a rainbow slate of candidates. And I just believe that if you do that folks will be able to compete toe-to-toe with anybody else who's being considered for these roles.
Excluding you for the moment from this discussion, are there leaders out in Silicon Valley that you look at and say they're doing a good job, they're really taking it seriously, I even might look up to them?
Well, I think that's probably far-fetched. I would say that there are certainly some who are much more open-minded. I think Bindoff over at Salesforce has, quite frankly, been among all his peers much more vocal and much more supportive of social justice types of things. And it's not just speaking about it, but putting it into action in terms of how he runs his corporation. But I think a lot of folks, honestly, there's a lot of statements. But then it's now taking the next step. And the next step, David, quite frankly, requires courage. It requires you to be able to go outside your comfort zone it's easy for everybody to jump on the bandwagon and rally around, statements, Black Lives Matter or whatever it may be, or I'm an ally, etc. But it takes really the next step, the courage, to be able to say we're going to put our words into action. And so when I look at Silicon Valley as a whole, I would say that right now is a good first step, that at least there is some awareness. There is statements that have been made. But I'd like to see more in terms of the next step. Let's put those words into action. Let's see if your hiring practices change. Let's see if your board composition change. Let's see if you're going out and recruiting C-suite executives into your top echelons of your corporation. Are you challenging your vendors and asking them, hey, if you're going to do business with us, we want to see that you are much more reflection of society at large. So it's action, and that's, I think, where we are right now. Statements are great. I think the values, people are aligned around that. Now let's see if we can put our words into action.
When you talk about action, do we need to go, I'll put it this way, upstream a bit in Silicon Valley? And by that I mean to make sure that venture capitalists, when they're backing outfits, are really paying attention to the diversity of the leadership of the company. And even beyond that, have people of color in the venture capital firms. I mean, there's a piece on the Bloomberg right now about that. There's a piece in the Financial Times today about that diversity at the VC level. Do you see that developing at all out in Silicon Valley?
I don't right now, but let me give you a thought here. Who do VCs raise funds from? Right? So you think about that. Who do they raise funds from? So a lot of VCs get their funds from pensions and other institutions, CalPERS and the likes. Hey, CalPERS, what are you doing? Right? You give a lot of money to VC firms, and what are you doing to drive behavioral changes, with those institutions whom you lend money to? Money, by the way, that comes from a very diverse group of constituencies, right? Many workers and pension funds have folks where those dollars came from them, from African Americans, Hispanics, across the board. So the truth of the matter is that I think you can change VC firms' behaviors, adopting better hiring practices, adding more people of color to their teams by putting the pressure on their money sources, right? Their money sources can actually drive more change quicker than us waiting around for VC firms to, through osmosis, make their own changes. Get the funding sources to drive that change. I guarantee you that those folks will change faster than Usain Bolt can run across the field.
Really powerful point, sort of a whole new take on ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Thank you so much for being with us. That's Matt Carter, CEO of Ariaka. That does it for Balance of Power for today. I'm David Weston, and this is Bloomberg.
Every aspect of our lives is connected.
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
When you're buying tech online and you want to make sure you get exactly what you need, would you rather talk to a machine or to someone called Mac or Priya or Lewis or Zoe or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience?
Hey, it's Ali. Can I give you a hand?
Isn't it nice to get expert advice from another human being before you buy? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
Newlywed to newborn. Ordering out to tucking in. Dream car to driveway. Isn't it nice when things arrive quicker than expected? Enter your location into our digital new car locator and it instantly tells you if the BMW you want is available nearby. So it'll be with you quicker than you might think. Search BMW New Car Locator today.
At the Halifax, we understand that as life returns to normal, it's a little bit different for everyone. You might feel good being out and about again. Or maybe you still feel safer being at home. Perhaps it's even a good time to consider moving. Right now, what matters is being wherever you feel most comfortable. And wherever that is, the Halifax are here to help. Online, on our app, over the phone, or in branch.
Terms, conditions and restrictions apply.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
At Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Business Week. Insight from the reporters and editors who bring you America's most trusted business magazine. Plus, global business, finance, and tech news as it happens. Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Live from New York and New Jersey, streaming on YouTube. It is Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. And Jason, I feel like this kind of trade, we've seen this before, kind of taking a pause here.
Taking a pause as we take a reality check on what's going on in the world. Obviously, the virus not going away, surging in some places, although some of the numbers looking a little bit better.
Yeah.
I dare say I'm really interested in the collision of all of these things in Washington. And therefore, we're going to check in with Craig Gordon. He's our buddy, our Washington bureau chief, so can't wait to catch up with him because a lot of things flying down there in the nation's capital.
Yeah, and let's not forget it's an election year, so we'll see what he has to say about that. First up, though, let's get to today's trade. A little bit of a mixed market, little changes here, but a little bit lower when it comes to the Dow. Let's check in with Charlie Pellet. Hey, Charlie.
Thank you very much. Well, hello. Welcome back, Carol Masser. Happy Tuesday to you both. We've got the Dow, the S&P lower. NASDAQ holding on to a gain barely. Anything in the green today will be another record for NASDAQ. Up 8 now, up by less than 0.1%. Got to begin with the year-to-date number for NASDAQ. So far this year, NASDAQ is up 16.4%. It is up 8 points right now, higher by 0.1%. S&P Dow both lower. S&P down 8, drop now of 0.3%. The Dow down 174, lower by 0.7%. But got to stay with Bloomberg Business Week right through the afternoon to see how things shake out. Will we see another record for NASDAQ? 10-year up 7.30 seconds, yield there, 0.65%. Gold up 0.7, 17.96 the ounce. Crude up 0.4%, 40.77 a barrel. Stocks falling, airlines, hotels particularly hard hit amid signs that the U.S. economy's got a long way to go. In fact, the world economy has a long way to go to get back on track. That is the latest. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Did he hesitate? Was he not sure who he was?
Yeah, I was sure of where I was going, but I said to myself, I could get into the hotels, I could get into the airlines, but you guys have so much to tell our audience today. Why keep droning on? That was my attitude. That's what I was thinking.
You never drone, just FYI.
You're very kind to say that.
And you usually remember who you are. Sometimes sometimes you forget just because you've been at home for so long, we need to get you back.
Yeah, well, my wife will tell you I'm not the person she married, so maybe I did forget who I am. Anyway, we're not going there.
All right, yeah, we're going to leave that to another time. All right, Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. Let's get right into the Business Week agenda now. As Charlie mentioned, we have a lot to talk about. Gina Martin-Adams is with us, Chief Equity Strategist for Bloomberg Intelligence, joining us on the phone from New Jersey. Also in New Jersey is where we find Dave Wilson, stocks editor for Bloomberg. He is there in the Garden State. So, Dave, give us the brief contours of this market. We heard some of the top-line numbers from Charlie. What do we need to know about this trade?
Well, technology stocks holding up relatively well, and the broader market not so much. I mean, Charlie didn't talk about airlines, so I will. I mean, you got United leading a decline in the group, warning employees that what's happening with the coronavirus in the South and West. is going to be an issue in terms of people getting on planes. The airline said it's seen a drop in bookings, especially in Newark, New Jersey, just up the road from yours truly. So, you've got United shares at the moment, the worst performers in the S&P 500, down more than 6%. And you see the other carriers going along for the ride, American, Delta, and Southwest, all lower here. So, that's a concern. On the other hand, you see some stories related to the coronavirus in terms of potential vaccines that are really getting attention. Front and center in that score is Novavax. Right. Stock's up 35% after the company got $1.6 billion from the U.S. government to develop its COVID-19 vaccine. So that definitely gets your attention.
Yeah, that definitely gets a stock moving. Let's bring in Gina, because Gina, I feel like things that might get the markets moving, maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way, depends on how the earnings season comes out. We've got to get ready for earnings again.
Yeah, totally agree that earnings is a potential catalyst for stocks, in addition to potential policy changes coming at the end of July in the form of maybe another fiscal package or at least an extension of unemployment benefits. The earnings season is absolutely top of mind for us as the next potential catalyst for stocks. I will say this. It's hard to get much lower in terms of expectations. Analysts are forecasting a 45% drop in earnings on a year-ago basis, which is just an extraordinary decline in history. I don't think you'd find a single quarter in which we've seen such an extensive decline. Nonetheless, that low bar should make for a relatively easy beat. The question is whether or not beating such a low bar will be enough for stock prices, and I happen to think that it may not be enough. What you actually probably need to see is also a little bit of visibility emerge from company management and with respect to the outlook. One of the most devastating impacts of the first quarter was companies just absolutely slashed all guidance and just said, we're not even going to tell you anything because we don't know anything. So to the extent that some of these cyclically oriented companies, some of the high volatility type of stocks can come out with some commentary to suggest that, hey, maybe we will survive. We have enough liquidity to get through the next couple of quarters and we'll move into 2021 and things will start to look better. That could be really positive for the equity market.
Well, and Gina, to that exact point, you start to wonder whether some CEOs are going to want to start to differentiate themselves, right? To say, look, we've made the right moves, or we have the right liquidity, we've tapped the right resources, because I think, this is just my opinion, that investors are going to maybe not put up much longer with this idea of we just don't know what's going to happen. It's we don't know what's going to happen, but it's kind of your job to tell us what you think is going to happen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that the smart managements will actually take the opportunity to kitchen sink as much as they can in the second quarter. Yeah. So, you've got a lot of potential volatility with, maybe things weren't as bad as we thought, but hey, we can take the opportunity to take this charge and kind of move past the second quarter. Everybody's expecting so much weakness anyway. Things will inevitably get better in the second half. Well, now maybe we can disclose just how much better they think, we think they'll get. And even if companies are saying, we're not anticipating a huge improvement in economic growth, well, okay, but you are anticipating at least some improvement, right, relative to second quarter. We know that second quarter was when all the shutdowns happened. We're no longer completely shut down. Right. What does your reality look like in a not completely shut down economy? And can we extrapolate that out into the future? So I do think the expectations bar is very different.
Right. And I think
that expectation is really about 2021 more than anything.
Right. And I think it's fair to ask CEOs because they've got to make decisions whether they need money, whether they need to let go workers. So they've got to be having some kind of forecasting going on because they've got to make decisions. So,
well, absolutely. And even for the companies that are really strong, what are you doing with all that cash? Right. Because one of the interesting things that happened in the first quarter is cash stores built tremendously. We talk a lot about cash flow declines, but cash stores also built up. What are you going to do with that going forward is a huge question that nobody's talking about.
All right, Gina Martin Adams, thank you so much. Chief Equity Strategist, of course, for Bloomberg Intelligence. Dave Wilson, quick tease of the chart of the day.
NASDAQ's biggest companies have become increasingly dominant, and there's more than one way to see it, and I'll give you a different way with the chart.
Cool.
All right.
That's a great tease.
Good tease. All right. So, Carol Massar, we've got a lot coming up on this Reality Check Tuesday.
Yeah, we do. And I feel like we're checking up on a lot of things. On the virus, on news out of Washington, the U.S.'s status in the world, on the troubled retail industry, and on Facebook's responsibility. Don't forget, they've got a big meeting going on. So on retail, Alan Ellinger, he's co-founder of the investment bank MMG, long time in the retail industry, doing deals, so we'll catch up with him. And then we've got the CEO of Zyper.
That's right. Amber Atherton, she's going to be back with us. Facebook obviously facing a huge amount of questions from big brands, big consumer brands. So we're going to want to hear from her about what may be next there and what folks out on the West Coast are saying about Facebook and its future as an important destination. Also, Dr. Deborah Birx, a familiar voice to anyone who's been listening to this station for the past few months. We're going to hear from her. Kevin Cirilli caught up with her earlier.
Yeah, and we've got a great cast of regulars, including our Washington bureau chief on new stimulus, and also Dr. Ian Lustbader, of NYU. In the meantime, Jason, let's do the Bloomberg Business Week Bite of the Day, one number that tells us a lot. Today's number is 1 in 5.
The ongoing coronavirus pandemic has caused millions to uproot themselves from their homes. In total, more than 1 in 5 adults either moved themselves, had someone move into their home, or knew someone who did move due to the virus. 3% of U.S. adults have moved either temporarily or permanently, and 6% say that someone has moved into their home because of COVID-19, according to new data from Pew. That checks out.
Yes, we're seeing movement in our neighborhood, including people leaving, but also people coming in and buying homes. So maybe getting out of the proper, NYC, if you will. Let's get a check on world and national news headlines. Let's check in with Nancy Lyons in our D.C. studio. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Carol. President Trump may use his executive powers to require pharmaceutical companies to make drugs domestically to counter the country's dependence on overseas manufacturing. That's the word from Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar, who spoke with Bloomberg.
The coronavirus pandemic has brought home that core elements of our medical supply chain are just as strategic to our national security as, say, nuclear submarines or aircraft carriers are, and have to be treated with that same kind of approach, which is to make sure we have core domestic manufacturing capabilities.
The U.S. drug industry is largely dependent on overseas manufacturers, particularly in China, for key building blocks known as active pharmaceutical ingredients. Coronavirus cases are rising in 39 states, including Georgia, where Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms admits her state reopened too soon. She appeared on ABC's Good Morning America.
It was too aggressive. It was too soon, and we're paying for it, not just in Georgia, but we're paying for it across the country, and people are paying for it with their lives.
Bottoms yesterday confirmed she has tested positive for the coronavirus after displaying no symptoms. Adding to the worries about a surge in cases, the personal protective gear that was in dangerously short supply during the early weeks of the pandemic is running low again. That's according to doctors, nurses, and some lawmakers. Deborah Berger, president of the National Nurses United, says there are shortages of gowns, hair covers, shoe covers, masks, and N95 masks. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
People love a good story. They like it even better when that story is real.
Is this something strange in the numbers?
Paul Sweeney.
That seems like a big miss to me.
Bonnie Quinn.
New funds getting started in order to take advantage of what might be a moment.
Bloomberg Markets, weekday mornings at 10 Eastern.
If Russia does throw this spanner in the works, what does it do to relations going forward?
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com.
How important is that statement there?
Bloomberg, the world is listening.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
COVID-19. On days when it seems there are nothing but questions.
What about the pandemic emergency purchase program in Europe?
What's the medical side of this?
We try to ask good ones.
How long until we have an answer on what drugs can help us fight this pandemic?
How do you think?
I'm placing stop on profit for euro at 112.93.5. So stop on profit at 112.93.5.
social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
If knowledge is power, the Bloomberg term...
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
What have you missed the most? A haircut? A visit to the shops?
Oh, you look lovely in that.
What about a nice lunch?
Fish and chips, please.
Salt and vinegar with that.
Or an afternoon in a pub garden? Fancy a casual bike ride? Or perhaps something a little more intense? Or maybe you want a relaxing day out. Whatever you've missed, get out there and enjoy it again safely. Find out how at gov.uk/enjoy summer safely.
Ready for a one-of-a-kind look at the NFL? On the PFF NFL podcast, Steve Palazzolo and Sam Munson interpret the unique stats of Pro Football Focus to analyze the league, uncover secret superstars, and discuss which teams to watch out for in the next Super Bowl.
Let's talk some football. Let's do it, Steve. All sorts of stuff. We're going to do most improved defenses around the NFL. Solomon Wilcots, our very own. He went into some detail over at PFF.com. Most improved defenses around the NFL.
Search PFF NFL on TuneIn to listen.
To help keep you and your loved ones safe, TuneIn has the latest guidelines from the CDC. Outdoor gatherings, wash your hands and don't touch your face. Stay at least 6 feet from people you don't live with. Wear a mask. Don't share food, toys, or other items, and avoid shared surfaces. Participate in events like these infrequently. For the latest stories and updates on COVID-19, search Coronavirus News on TuneIn.
Are you ready for the realest first-hand take of what's happening in the NBA? On their podcast, All the Smoke, former NBA players Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson bring their fiery intensity to the mic, dishing on the latest news and drama from on and off the court without boundaries.
Half man, half amazing. My friend, our brother, Vince Carter, man, welcome to the show.
Yo, what's up, man? What's up, my brother? Man,
Search All the Smoke on TuneIn to listen.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races. We're all guilty of spending too much time on social media. Why not add something genuinely useful to your feed with TuneIn? Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to learn about some of the best stuff happening around the app. You might just discover your next audio obsession.
Who says you can't have a laugh while getting serious about America's pastime? On the daily podcast Locked On MLB, comedian and baseball fanatic Paul Francis Sullivan talks about each team, each pennant race, and everything else in the game. From rule changes and controversies to baseball cards and stadium food.
For those of you who are not familiar with me or the old show, I love to obsess over baseball. I'm talking baseball over the Super Bowl. We had a TV showing the division series during my wedding.
Search Locked On MLB on TuneIn to listen today.
4 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Tech shares are gaining. NASDAQ is at a record. The S&P 500 index lower now by 0.3%, down 10 points at 3168. NASDAQ is up 1 point at 10,435, a gain of less than 0.1%. The Dow down 192, a drop now of 7/10. 0.6%. 10 years up 9/32, yield 0.64%. We've got gold up 0.6 at $17.96 the ounce, and crude oil little changed, up 1 cent a barrel now at $40.64. Recapping equities mix, the Dow hanging on. Dow is down 191, S&P down 11, NASDAQ up barely, up by 1 point. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Well, this is one of those rub your hands together interviews,
Yes,
Carol,
totally.
because I'm so excited to catch up again with Craig Gordon, Washington Bureau Chief Executive Editor for Bloomberg, joining us on the phone from the nation's capital and its environs. So, Craig, I am tempted to just talk about YouTube radio and the return to Sirius XM that both you and I are so happy about, but we have other business to discuss. And I guess I would start by asking you, as you look across all that your reporters are working on, all the inputs you're getting, what's the most important story in Washington right now?
I think the most important story right now actually is Donald Trump's handling of the current situation regarding things like the Confederate flag and some of these racial issues. Obviously, there's the stimulus, there's the virus, there's a lot going on, but we are seeing a real window into Trump's psyche as he starts to look at the same poll numbers we're looking at that show him kind of, blinking red across the board. Most of the swing states right now suggest that it'd be going to Biden. The country right track, wrong track number, which is one of the main numbers that people look at, in terms of the president's prospects of reelection, are all going, the arrows are all in the wrong direction for Trump. And instead of, finding a message to try to either unite the country during COVID or, some of the racial healing that might be available to him, he's actually going in the complete opposite direction. He talked again this morning a little bit about the Confederate flag. That was a tweet from yesterday, actually. He sent Kellyanne Conway out to defend his comments on that. Obviously, we all saw the speeches from Friday and Saturday night where he's standing at Mount Rushmore, a real chance again to kind of try to have some unifying words, standing under the visages of our greatest presidents, and really went pretty negative. So I think a lot of times with Trump, what you see is what you get. He is not a man who has a very good poker face, and I think he's worried about losing. And I think the more he's worried about losing, he's going to start lashing out in these frankly pretty ugly ways as he tries to keep Joe Biden down.
Does he not want to be president?
Oh, I won't put him on the couch quite that far. That's always been the question, right? No one's more surprised than Donald Trump on election night 2016. But he definitely, I feel like, he's a politician who kind of won with sort of one good trick, and that trick was Muslim ban. It was the wall. It was us versus them. It was sort of, speaking to the so-called downtrodden Americans and kind of stoking some of those darker impulses in the American psyche. I think that's how he got to be the president the first time. He's the president now. A president has a lot of tools at their disposal. There could be virus things, or again, some of the racial hearing, even just economic message. I'm going to bring the economy back, which he sort of says a lot but doesn't do much. And instead, he's kind of going back to that one trick over and over. And I would respectfully argue, even perhaps in an even slightly darker way. The problem for Trump is that a lot of the country's not really with him. I mean, he won by the slimmest of majorities, wasn't even a majority, plurality last time. And even some of those people are scared about the virus. They don't like the way things are going with the economy. We know the seniors who were pretty strong for him in 2016 are kind of starting to drift away. And so, I mean, we all know Donald Trump's advisors have a pretty poor record of getting him to change his ways. But, boy, this does not feel like he's playing a winning hand right now, and yet he keeps doubling down and doubling down and doubling down.
Well, Craig, we just have a headline crossing the Bloomberg about California seeing 6,090 new virus cases versus about 6,600 for the 14-day average.
We sold euro at its top price 112.935. Her profit £200.
And this, to me, was sort of the mystery of it. We had a terrific story out by Gregory Cordy and Mike Dorning just yesterday on the Bloomberg terminal, talking about how in the very states where the cases are up, Trump's numbers are down. It's almost like a one-to-one correlation where the cases are up, the numbers are down. This isn't blue states like California, which you mentioned, New York, New Jersey, which obviously had its share of problems. This is Florida. This is Arizona. This is places he won and really needs to win again if he has any chance of getting back into the White House. So, it does seem to sort of even run counter to that. These are his voters. These are his states. This is Trump country, and they are suffering right now with the virus, and yet they look to the White House, they look to the president, and they're really, I mean, Trump almost barely mentions the virus anymore. Obviously, we went from the extreme of those nightly 2- and 3-hour-long briefings to now he barely will say the word, virus. And I'm sorry, I think some of the voters in those places, again, maybe they don't want to wear a mask, and maybe they wish they could go back to the bar, and whatever people are feeling right now, we're all a little antsy. I'm in week 17, I work from home. I feel their pain, but I do think they're looking to the White House and looking to the leader of the country for some answers to help their states and their friends and neighbors, and they're seeing nothing, and that's a problem for Trump.
Well, and Craig, it's also interesting to see a shift in tone, it feels like, over the last week from whether it's Mitch McConnell or even Vice President Pence saying, wear a mask. I mean, it sounds so ridiculous to point that out, and at the same time, it's notable, right? That
we have a story in the works right now on Pence's comments, because I picked up a little bit on that just as you did over the weekend, that even Mike Pence, as the loyalist, obviously carried a lot of water for this president, is kind of ever so slightly edging away from him on the question of a mask, that it's okay to wear a mask. Again, Mitch McConnell, no one's idea of a flaming liberal, is out there saying the same thing. So, right, it's like, that's what strikes me, and I think the way it made me answer your question the way I did at the top here of what's the most important thing. It's both that Trump is doubling down on what feels to me, and I think the poll suggests is kind of a losing message, but he's starting to lose his loyalists. When Mike Pence is starting to talk a little differently than Donald Trump, boy, that's a pretty notable day. Mitch McConnell, some of these other folks, and that's where the trouble really is right now for President Trump.
Because you've had a hard time finding any daylight between those two since the election, that's for sure. All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Craig Gordon in just a few minutes after we do some news and some business. One of the things that I want to talk about is, while Craig Gordon may be unwilling to put this president on the couch, his niece was willing to in some ways. And that book is meant to be a blockbuster, and some copies are leaking out. It's supposed to come out next week, and you thought John Bolton's book got tongues a wagon. This one looks like it's going to do similarly and maybe even bigger.
Strike two, another new tell-all book from a Trump insider. So we're going to talk to Craig Gordon more about that. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. It is Tuesday. I'm Carol Masser along with Jason Kelly. We'll continue with Craig. We'll also get an interesting firsthand experience about dealing with the virus from one of our reporters who's also been aggressively exploring those antibody tests. So we'll check in with her in just a moment. You're listening to Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. For the first time in 10 weeks, more consumers are staying out of stores. Broadco Analytics reports retail traffic last week was down nearly 52% from a year ago. The year-over-year decline was 50% the week before. Investors are mostly staying away from stocks after 5 consecutive winning sessions. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 192. The S&P is down 10. The Nasdaq is up 7. Walmart is up more than 6% as it prepares to launch its challenger to Amazon Prime. Recode reports Walmart Plus will cost $98 a year and offer perks such as same-day delivery of groceries and general merchandise. Major movie theater chains are suing New Jersey for keeping theaters closed while houses of worship and other public places reopen. The suit argues that going to a movie is less risky than a religious service since there's less social interaction. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies? Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers. With COVID-19, so much is unknown.
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
When you're buying tech online and you want to make sure you get exactly what you need, would you rather talk to an algorithm or to someone called Al, or Sean, or Luth, or Ange, or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience?
Hi, it's Ali. What are you searching for?
Isn't it nice to get expert advice from another human being before you buy? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
What have you missed the most? A haircut? A visit to the shops?
Oh, you look lovely in that.
What about a nice lunch?
Fish and chips, please.
Salt and vinegar with that.
Or an afternoon in a pub garden? Fancy a casual bike ride? Or perhaps something a little more intense? Or maybe you want a relaxing day out. Whatever you've missed, get out there and enjoy it again safely. Find out how at gov.uk/enjoy summer safely.
What would the world be like if we listened more? At Honda, our ears are always open to new ideas. Oh, there's one now, knocking on our eardrum. What's that? What if we made a car with cameras instead of wing mirrors? A robot mower that knows when it's time to cut the grass. A self-balancing motorcycle. And what if by 2022, all of our mainstream cars were hybrid or electric? Great idea. Thanks, ears. Honda, the power of dreams.
Where do hockey and pop culture coexist?
So let me get this straight. You would be able to name more people nostalgically than currently? This doesn't... Come on. You're crazy. I know.
Other podcast Puck Soup NHL analyst Greg Wyshynski, Sean McAdoo, and Ryan Lambert chase the conversational biscuit up and down the ice, skating between serious discussion on what's happening in pro hockey to irreverent opinions on movies, fast food, and life in general. Search Puck Soup on TuneIn to listen.
Are you ready for the realest first-hand take of what's happening in the NBA? On their podcast, All the Smoke, former NBA players Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson bring their fiery intensity to the mic, dishing on the latest news and drama from on and off the court without boundaries.
Half man, half amazing. My friend, our brother, Vince Carter, man. Welcome to the show.
Yo, what's up, man? What's up, my brother? Man,
Search All the Smoke on TuneIn to listen.
You love TuneIn for live-breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
We're all guilty of spending too much time on social media. Why not add something genuinely useful to your feed with TuneIn? Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to learn about some of the best stuff happening around the app. You might just discover your next audio obsession.
3-0 to Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
All right, well, coming up, we're going to continue our conversation with Craig Gordon. So many more things to dig into with him because, as you say, it's still a presidential election year. Totally. There are books coming out, so much to talk about.
Yep, we'll get back to Craig in just a moment. In the meantime, back to you, the world of business, your top business stories, and a look at the trading day. Hey, Charlie Pellet.
Well, hello there. We're looking at NASDAQ just moving into the red since our last update, so it is now a down day for the Dow. The S&P and NASDAQ stocks are falling. Airlines and hotels particularly hard hit amidst signs that the world economy's got a long way to go to get back on track. 2 stocks fell on the S&P 500 index for everyone that gained. S&P down 17, up 31.62, a drop of 0.5%. The Dow's down 242, lower by 0.9%. NASDAQ is now down 27 points, retreating from a record, down by 0.3%. 10-years up 11.30 seconds with a yield of 0.63%. Gold up 0.7%, 17.96 the ounce, and crude retreating 0.4%, $40.49 for a barrel of West Texas Intermediate crude. United Airlines Holdings is warning employees that a jump in coronavirus infections in part of the South and West is jeopardizing a recovery for U.S. travel. We are seeing shares of UAL and the other airlines lower. UAL down now by 7.1%. Several states in the U.S. are dealing with increasing coronavirus case numbers. China is seeing its reported cases decline. Kent Calder is International Research Vice Dean at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health.
These statistics are not 100% clear, but it appears that China has done dramatically better than the others have. Something like 88,000 by the statistics in the initial casualties. But then in the United States, in terms of the infected, over 2 million and more.
The Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health is supported by Michael R. Bloomberg, founder of Bloomberg LP and Bloomberg Philanthropies. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg meeting today with leaders of the NAACP, the Anti-Defamation League, and Color of Change to address a range of concerns about Facebook. Facebook shares, they are up right now, Facebook gaining by 1.1%. San Francisco-based Gap, which introduced face masks to its stores and website earlier this year, is now selling them directly to employers. Gap shares lower by 3.3%. Recapping, stocks lower, S&P down 0.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Yep, call it a new revenue stream. All right, Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. Let's get back to Craig Gordon, Washington Bureau Chief here at Bloomberg News, on the phone from Bethesda, Maryland. So, Craig, we've got a new tell-all book from a Trump insider. What do we know about this book?
So, right, this just came out today, or is being released today. Eric Larson, one of our legal team reporters, managed to get his hands on it, so good for him. This is Mary Trump. This is President Trump's niece, so she got to see a lot of up close and personal, the interaction mostly between, the book seems to center a lot on the interaction between Trump and his father, obviously a Queens real estate developer, just like the president turned into. And really, it's hard to read. Obviously, we all feel, everybody always feels like they know the president a little bit, just because you see the person so often. But boy, you're getting a very ugly look inside the family dynamic here, where Fred Trump, his father, just drove Donald very hard. She accuses him essentially of withholding his love and support and turning Donald Trump. One of the ones that leapt out at me was she herself is a clinical psychologist, so she's not just sort of an armchair person here. Asserts that her uncle has all 9 clinical criteria for being a narcissist. So for anyone who might have thought that about the president, there's a clinical psychologist who got to live with him, off and on for many, many years, making that same diagnosis. It's pretty chilling stuff.
And even the idea, and this hits a little in the zeitgeist right now, this notion that he paid someone to take the SAT for him. I mean, right. All these things just, it's a little bit of a drip, drip, drip that turns into something more than that, it feels like, Craig.
Yeah, that's how I tend to view these books. Like, I'm not sure how many people sort of sit and read the whole canon of Donald Trump from, Woodward's first book all the way up to Bolton and now this book. But I do think they tend to, like you say, little details of them sort of break through the zeitgeist. In this case, maybe it's he paid someone to take the SAT and to get into Wharton, which he's bragged about almost every day of his life since then. With the Bolton book, I think it was, that he had asked the Chinese President Xi to buy a bunch of agricultural products to help him get reelected. Again, a very sort of picture of a president literally bartering his own reelection with the leader of a country that is certainly no friend of the United States, certainly a rival. So I don't know that they, again, you have to read the whole library of them to form an opinion about Trump, but the little pieces that come out, it's another brick on the pile for people who, again, are already looking at the president with questions about. I think the virus was particularly damaging to Donald Trump in this way, in that Americans expect their president to be sort of empathetic. Bill Clinton became a little bit of a punchline. I feel your pain, but I do think that's what Americans look to the president to do at a time of a national crisis or a disaster. In Clinton's case, the Oklahoma City bombing. More recently, obviously for Trump, the virus. I think you could put
Bush
all the
post 9/11, right? I mean, I think we all remember those images and that video of George W. Bush at Ground Zero, Craig.
Perfect example, and that is that moment when the president becomes bigger than the person, bigger than the job, becomes a national, figure, a national healer, a national consoler. And I think you could take every word Donald Trump said in sympathy to people who caught COVID and put it on a single page. I mean, I remember watching those briefings and just being struck night after night after night of how he just, even the most cursory sort of perfunctory words of sympathy or empathy or concern almost did not pass his lips. And again, I guess if Mary Trump were here, she'd tell us he's a narcissist. So that's they tend to only see themselves and not the rest of the world. But I really do think the virus in that way exposed Trump just in a really sort of brutal way, that the person that he is. Again, sometimes you want the president to be a tough guy and different things. Well, I think right now people are looking for a little bit of empathy, a little bit of human compassion.
Right.
They are not finding it in Donald Trump.
Yeah, considering that, the nation has been in lockdown and everybody kind of experiencing all of this together, you certainly probably can make the case for saying you want a president who understands that. If you put it all together, though, it takes me, Craig, to another story that's among the most read by Jonathan Bernstein about, not that one, I'm sorry, it's another story, but it talks about Nick Wadham, about the pandemic response, turning America first into America last. I do wonder how, if you add all of this up, what it does for the United States on a global stage.
Yeah, that was. I'm really proud of that story. Nick Wadham is our State Department reporter, and he kind of observed. Again, Trump came to office on a travel ban, keeping out some of the Muslim nations. Well, now the U.S. is the subject of a travel ban of a sort, as the EU says Americans can't travel there because of our high rates of the virus. And he kind of goes through the story and lays out all the examples of how, in again, a time of a global crisis, the United States often will be the leader, sort of pulling the rest of the world along and such. Right. And in this case, we're kind of the laggard. And people are, their suspicion of Trump grows ever deeper. I think this is actually an issue that would happen even if Joe Biden gets elected. Yeah. That the world has learned they're always just one election away from the United States turning inward in the way that Donald Trump did, and maybe Joe Biden would try to reverse that. But
Absolutely.
I don't think these feelings aren't going away quickly.
Craig, got to leave it there, unfortunately. Great to catch up with you, D.C. Bureau Chief and Executive Editor Craig Gordon. Let's stay in Washington, get to Nancy Lyons for some headlines. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Jason, the White House is targeting early August for another stimulus package. Mark Short, Chief of Staff to the Vice President, spoke about it with Bloomberg's Chief Washington Correspondent, Kevin Cirilli.
The August recess for Congress should be the first week in August, and so by that timetable is when we want to have a bill on the President's desk.
Short predicts the next package will keep the cost at $1 trillion or less. He says it'll likely focus on a payroll tax cut and liability reform, which the White House views as essential to bringing workers back. As for the uptick in coronavirus cases, Short says closing the country down again is not an option. Roger Stone is making a naked appeal for a pardon from President Trump before he reports to prison next week. Bloomberg's Nathan Hager reports.
The longtime confidant to President Trump says all of his legal remedies are exhausted and, quote, only an act of clemency will provide justice in my case and save my life. Stone issued a statement after a federal appeals court ordered the U.S. government to respond to Stone's request to delay the start of his 40-month prison term until September. Stone is due to report to prison a week from today after being convicted of lying to Congress during the Russia investigation. Nathan Hager, Bloomberg Radio.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and COO Sheryl Sandberg are meeting with civil rights groups today. They'll be discussing the recent ad boycott of Facebook by more than 500 brands organized by the Stop Hate for Profit. And tomorrow, the social media platform plans to release an independent civil rights audit after a 2-year review. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
The market's info.
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
How do we control coronavirus now? Listen to Claudia. She's a care worker.
I got the call from NHS Test and Trace. Told I'd been in contact with someone with coronavirus. Couldn't believe it. I had to isolate at home for 14 days. Couldn't go to work, couldn't go to the shops, couldn't get out to exercise. I didn't even feel ill. But you know what? To protect my family, my friends, my community, well, you just do it, don't you?
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
To help keep you and your loved ones safe, TuneIn has the latest guidelines from the CDC. Outdoor gatherings? Wash your hands and don't touch your face. Stay at least 6 feet from people you don't live with. Wear a mask. Don't share food, toys, or other items, and avoid shared surfaces. Participate in events like these infrequently. For the latest stories and updates on COVID-19, search Coronavirus News on TuneIn.
Want to get all your college sports news in one place? Turn on the Yahoo Sports College podcast to hear experts Dan Wetzel, Pat Forty, and Pete Thamel break down the latest NCAA stories from the football field to the basketball court and beyond.
I think Reggie should do a video of him running to Heritage Hall and front flipping in. Remember that famous front flipping the end zone that he did? Wasn't he the one who made that popular?
I think he was.
I think he was, yeah.
Search Yahoo College Sports Podcast on TuneIn to listen.
On the Media heads to Montgomery, where a new memorial to lynching victims asks us all to face this country's past.
I think people realize, yeah, something bad probably did happen. And they don't want to acknowledge it because they're afraid they're going to be punished for it. I have no interest in punishing this nation for its history. I want to liberate us.
On this week's special episode of On the Media from Alabama. Listen to the On the Media podcast on TuneIn today.
With millions of podcasts dropping new episodes all the time, how do you keep up with all your favorites? TuneIn makes it easy. Simply head to the home screen and find your new episode section to see the latest additions.
Ready for some straight talk on what's happening in the MLB? On the Barstool Sports Podcast starting 9, Dallas Brayton and Jared Carrabis cut through the BS to break down the league the way they really see it.
Yeah, we're continuing our little mini-series of college baseball coaches in addition to bringing you major league players from throughout the league. If you've been listening to Starting 9 for some time now, you know that we've had a big leaguer on every single episode for probably 2 years now.
Search Starting 9 on TuneIn to listen.
Today at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. A down day for the U.S. stock market. The Dow, the S&P, and now NASDAQ all trading lower, but Microsoft, Apple, and Facebook, they're all higher. S&P down 16, a drop of 0.5%. The Dow is down 239, down 0.9, and NASDAQ lower by 20, reversing earlier gains, down now by 0.2%. 10 years up 830 seconds with a yield of 0.64%. Gold up 0.6%, 17.96 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.5%, $40.44 for a barrel of West Texas Intermediate crude. Airlines and hotels particularly hard hit today amid signs that the world economy has a long way to go to get back on track. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week on this Tuesday. Now, we, Jason, have turned to her before to hear about her firsthand experiences of dealing with COVID-19. Her stories have been featured in the magazine. Back with us is Bloomberg News Financial Investigations senior writer Stephanie Baker. She's joining us once again on the phone from London, and she has taken several antibody tests before she could trust the results. So let's get into her experience here. Stephanie, it is good to have you back with us. Tell us about this latest story. You had 5 antibody tests that you've taken before you could really kind of trust the results, right?
That's right. A couple months ago, I took 4 antibody tests, those finger prick antibody tests that were on the market at the time. But many people had questioned their reliability, and I got conflicting results. I got 2 positives and 2 negatives and sort of gave up, even though I had cross-checked them with various other doctors and nurses who had tested positive for COVID. So I was left a bit confused about my status. When some of the newer tests came out that are based on an intravenous blood draw, they appear to be more accurate and more sensitive. So I finally got around to taking one of these tests, the Abbott test, which does have some pretty good data behind it, and I was indeed positive. And I was somewhat relieved that I figured I have 3 positives versus 2 negatives, and one of the positives seems to be more reliable and has some pretty hard science behind it.
So, having studied this, Stephanie, I have to ask you, why is this so hard?
I agree. It shouldn't be this hard. And I think it's hard because we are still learning so much about this virus. I think some of the tests we're trying to figure out what is the best way to go about finding the most effective antibodies. Is it against the spike protein or is it against the nucleocapsid, which is another kind of antibody that the COVID-19 generates? And I think there was a lot of time wasted on these finger prick tests, which some of them can be good and reliable, but they're just not as sensitive as the intravenous blood draw. The blood draw is a hard thing to roll out on a mass scale. It's more expensive, it's more time-consuming, but the data seems to indicate that this is the better approach. We still don't know what it means to have antibodies, and I think that's the biggest problem. There's indications that it does provide some protection. We don't know how long that lasts, and I think that's the real question mark over these tests. What does it really mean to be positive?
That's such a good point, because I think, Stephanie, when we first started talking about the antibody test, we were like, okay, this is the holy grail. We're going to find out if you had it, and then you're okay, and then you've got some immunity, and you can go back out into the world. And now we're realizing it's not so easy. And I do wonder, how did it kind of change your psyche in terms of, okay, you know, or you think you know, right? Because you've done 5 tests, and the majority are saying one thing. I mean, has it impacted your world in terms of how you go back and re-enter?
I think it has made me more relaxed about the risk of contracting it, for sure. I'm still being cautious because I think that's the responsible thing to do. But I do look at my risks of, say, contracting it by going into a store or even a restaurant as less than it would have been otherwise. But I think I do have a responsibility to be careful, because we just don't have those long-term studies showing what it means. We don't know how long it lasts. My antibodies might fade. We don't know. And until those studies are done, I need to be the sort of responsible pandemic citizen and be careful and cautious around social distancing.
So, Stephanie, in your real life as a Bloomberg reporter, I know that you are very knowledgeable about Wall Street and the city there in London and all of the gymnastics that these big firms, especially the financial firms, are going through in terms of getting people back to work. Look at this through that lens for us, if you can, because you do that so nicely in your story, and what role the antibody test and sort of testing in general is going to play in terms of getting back to office.
Yeah, so I thought I would check with some of the big banks and figure out if they were using these antibody tests. I only found Credit Suisse Group is one who is offering antibody testing to its employees in Switzerland. It's looking at rolling it out to other hubs, but it's only for people coming back to the office, and they're not requiring them to disclose their results. It's more of a sort of peace of mind perk for employees. Other banks have been more cautious. I think there are some, potential legal issues that maybe they're wary of. I think it's not exactly the silver bullet to get people back in the office. I think it's they're taking a sort of wait and see approach, to see what kind of data comes out. We do need to remember antibody testing is used to take blood plasma from people that can be used to treat COVID patients with those antibodies. So it's not a meaningless test. It does tell us something. I do wish we would know more about what it tells us, and I think we will find out in the coming months.
Well, were you approached? I am curious after, your testing. I wonder what that process is. Do hospitals approach people once they know about somebody who's had it and has potentially the antibodies? I'm just curious about kind of that supply chain, if you will.
Yeah, in the UK, I know that there are various researchers advertising for people to come in and donate blood plasma. Some people are using it as a backdoor way of getting an antibody test for free. Others are, I think, offering it or looking for potential donors amongst healthcare workers, where infections have been higher. It's still an evolving science, I think we'll probably see more research coming out about that and the effects of using antibodies to treat patients in the future.
I do feel like it's a piece of the puzzle, right?
Totally. Yeah, an important piece for sure. And we really appreciate your reporting and, candidly, your candor and your willingness to sort of share this, not just with us, but with all of our readers and viewers and listeners. Stephanie Baker, really appreciate it. Financial Investigations senior writer for Bloomberg, joining us on the phone from London. And it is interesting, Carol, to get her perspective. She's an amazing journalist, and by the way, has done some phenomenal work around Paul Manafort and Ukraine and all these different things. And so this is a very personal story.
It is very personal. And I have to say, this because I've told you, but, we had an experience with the hospital this weekend, and my husband actually had a COVID test. He doesn't have it. But I could see even with him, he's like, hey, I don't have it. There was some relief. There is something about knowing for certain whether you've had it, whether you have it. Again, it just lasts, with the COVID test, you can walk out the door and get it
and get it in the parking lot. Yeah.
But there is something about, and I understand this testing and tracing, how it helps us kind of build out the puzzle, fill in the pieces to maybe get better control of it. But I just feel like there's still not a national system to make sure that you're getting tested and I'm getting tested, and then we can kind of start putting this together to help us get back to normal.
Yeah, and you just wonder if we're, going to get to that point right around the time that we have a vaccine, and it becomes a little bit moot to some extent. We'll see.
Although, as Dr. Fauci said, it's not infinite
finite.
In terms of it.
It's finite. Yeah, exactly. All right. For those of you listening in New York, D.C., San Francisco, watching on YouTube, Bloomberg Business Week continues right here. If you're listening on Bloomberg 106.1 in Boston, Bay State Business, that is coming up next. We're going to get into the world of economics. Me and Carol Massar. You're listening to Business Week.
Everything seems...
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
There's lots to discover when you join Tesco Mobile, like the incredible iPhone SE with its Retina HD display. Perfect for streaming on the go for just $19.99 a month. That's our lowest ever price. But hurry, offer ends 12th of July. Visit us in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 12th of the 7th 20 was £22.49. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements with Tesco Mobile required. Subject to status, 99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Who says you can't have a laugh while getting serious about America's pastime? On the daily podcast Locked On MLB, comedian and baseball fanatic Paul Francis Sullivan talks about each team, each pennant race, and everything else in the game, from rule changes and controversies to baseball cards and stadium food.
For those of you who are not familiar with me or the old show, I love to obsess over baseball. I'm talking baseball over the Super Bowl. We had a TV showing the division series during my wedding.
Search Locked On MLB on TuneIn to listen today.
This is Mike Golick from ESPN's Golick and Wingo. Every morning, Trey Wingo, my son, and I sit down to discuss all the news, drama, and highlights spinning the sports world that day. And with TuneIn, you can hear us whenever and wherever you go. Just search Golick and Wingo to start listening today.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
It's TuneIn Sports on this day. On this day in 1959, during the 26th Major League Baseball All-Star Game, Willie Mays hits a triple. The score, Hank Aaron, allowing the National League to win 5-4.
But I enjoy it. I just had become, what you say, a star in the game, and that didn't bother me. I went out and played my game every day, and I think I had good years, even though we finished maybe fourth.
To listen to conversations breaking down the moments just like this, search sports to be part of the discussion on TuneIn.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We move into the final hour of trading with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all lower. Stocks are slumping. Airlines and hotels particularly hard hit amid signs that the world economy has a long way to go to get back on track. The S&P 500 index down 15, a drop of 0.5%. The Dow is down 241 points, down 0.9%. And NASDAQ lower now by 18 points. That is a drop of 0.2%. 10-year up 9/32, looking at a yield now of 0.64%. Gold is up 0.6%, $17.95 the ounce, up $11 the ounce, while West Texas Intermediate crude oil has slumped 0.4% to $40.46 a barrel. U.S. Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette says when it comes to the economic recovery in the U.S., he's looking at the energy industry.
I'm so proud of this particular industry because of the innovations that they've been able to develop over the course of the last 2, 3, perhaps 4 decades that allows them to ramp up and down their production numbers very, very efficiently. So I think as we continue to open up, we're going to have a great economic recovery, and energy is going to underpin almost all of it.
And among some of the energy names that we follow, ExxonMobil down 1.8%, BP lower by 2%, EOG Resources down 3%, and shares of Pioneer Natural Resources, they are down now by just about 2%. It is a down day for the U.S. stock market, but heavyweights such as Microsoft, Apple, and Facebook are all edging higher. Right now we have got shares of Microsoft up 0.2%, Apple shares, they're up by 0.4%, and Facebook up now by about 1.2%. Treasury Department says Delta Airlines and United Airlines are among major carriers that may tap a federal loan program as the industry copes with the coronavirus pandemic damage. Again, recapping, we've got equities lower across the board. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all slumping on this Tuesday afternoon. The S&P is down 18 now, a drop of 0.6%. Recapping on the Dow, down 280 points, down 1.1%. NASDAQ down 0.3. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Bloomberg Business Week. I was about to thank Charlie, but, we played some music. I still love Charlie. I still love to thank him. Such a nice guy.
Manners, you have really nice manners.
I have really nice manners.
It's one of my favorite things.
So this, I have to say, this is a series of stories I've really been looking forward to. This is Bloomberg at its best, I have to say.
Yes.
A big data trove. You just break it down, and at the center of all of it is Mark Niquette, corporate influence and politics reporter for Bloomberg. He is always a must-read reporter. He joins us on the phone from Columbus, Ohio. We wanted to know who got the money. We finally got some evidence, and whoa, there's a lot to talk about. So, Mark, as you look at this body of work that you and the team produced, what jumps out at you? What are the patterns that emerge from this PPP data dump?
Well, just the breadth and the scope of the types and number of businesses that got funding. I mean, it was sort of billed as a program, meant to save small businesses from the pandemic with, overwhelming demand, and the data certainly bears that out. And it's interesting, the extent of the types of businesses that got loans. I mean, we're talking, the companies you would expect, the manufacturers, the small retailers, the mom and pop businesses. You can tell from the names of the folks who got funding who they are, but also just the larger law firms that got funding, and in particular the nonprofits that got funding. I mean, we knew that this program was eligible for nonprofits and religious organizations, for example, but I was surprised at the number. There were more than 88,000 loans just for religious organizations and nonprofits that range from museums and universities and colleges to zoos. So just a wide swath of the U.S. economy, small businesses that tap this program.
Right, which is the U.S. economy, all right? And we talk about it being so important, Mark, in terms of what is the backbone of the U.S. Economy here. In going through this, and I know it was a huge data dump, did the money go to where we would, as public citizens, as U.S. citizens, expect it to go?
Well, that's actually a point of contention with this data because it wasn't a complete data dump. We saw the names of companies and details for firms that got loans of more than $150,000. The Small Business Administration and Treasury Department made the determination that for loans of below $150,000, the names of companies would be withheld. The explanation was these are a lot of small firms who use their home address as their business address, and the loans are calculated based on a company's payroll, and the determination was that would be proprietary or confidential for these small businesses. But the problem is those businesses account for 86% of the total number of loans that were issued, so we don't have visibility to who got 86% of these loans, and Democratic lawmakers and some small business groups think we need to see that data to really understand whether PPP worked. Did it reach the minority-owned businesses or the really small self-employed or independent contractors who needed help. And you just can't tell from the data that was released without getting those company names. So there'll be a push, I think, to get access to this data so the public can get a better picture and understanding of how effective this program was. This data was given to the Congressional Oversight Committees and the GAO, but under the condition that they keep the names and personally identifiable information about companies that got these smaller loans private.
And so, Mark, when we think back a few weeks, or now I guess a few months, this got off to some fits and starts, the program did, and there certainly was a sense that, some of the money went to those who were best positioned to sort of fill out the paperwork and jump through all the hoops that needed to get jumped through. How does this affect the next round of stimulus? How does what we learned from this, either from a public perspective or from a legislative perspective or from an administration's perspective, maybe inform how this goes next in your estimation?
I think what you're going to see is a much more targeted effort, or at least an attempt to direct aid to companies that need it most, set some kind of parameters for companies that have lost a certain amount of revenue or are situated in a way that they deserve funding. Because part of the problem with the PPP program is when it was launched, first the Congress didn't think we'd be dealing with the pandemic as long as we are. They thought this would be a bridge to recovery, and it hasn't worked out that way. And they really didn't set many parameters for qualifying for this loan, other than being a small business at the start. And it was only after news started surfacing that entities like Shake Shack and the Los Angeles Lakers were getting these loans at the expense of mom and pop shops that the administration started to say, well, hey, if you are a large public company and you have access to other capital, you probably don't qualify for this. But it was sort of after the fact. This wasn't set up in advance, with strict guidelines of who was eligible and who wasn't. So I think that's one of the lessons learned from PPP, that, when we get to the next round, either repurposing the leftover PPP money or additional aid, there'll be clear guidelines at the start of who's eligible and who do we want to get this funding.
What about members of Congress or members of the administration that had either some kind of business entity that was able to tap? I'm not being critical, but were able to tap into this program.
Yeah, that's a sore spot already. There's reports surfacing. We found connections of businesses that have connections to President Trump or members of administration, and there was nothing specifically in the law creating the PPP program that barred these firms from participating. And the explanation when you talk to some of these firms is that it wasn't that they did anything wrong or unethical, and ultimately they used the program the way it was intended, to keep employees employed. There's people questioning, well, why would a group like Grover Norquist's Americans for Tax Reform take this kind of program? They're a small government outfit, right? They don't agree with government spending. Right. And the answer is, well, hey, we have employees too, and this is a program meant to keep employees, workers employed during the pandemic. So the bottom line is there really weren't sort of clear prohibitions against a lot of these firms taking money at the top that you can go back now and say, well, hey, you didn't qualify for this. You should not have gotten this money.
Right. All right. Well, we are going to keep following your reporting. Really grateful for it. Mark Nickhat is corporate influence and politics reporter for Bloomberg News, joining us on the phone from Columbus. This is just a story made for Bloomberg, so we're going to be tracking it, Carol.
I love all the information in this story, and absolutely we'll continue to track as more of these loans go out. All right, let's get back to World and National News headlines and back on over to Nancy Lyons. Hi, Nance.
Hey, Carol. The World Health Organization is acknowledging there is emerging evidence about the airborne spread of the coronavirus. Scientists have drafted a letter asking the global body to update its guidance on how the respiratory disease is spread. Benedetta Allegranzi is technical lead for the WHO.
We believe that we have to be open to this evidence and understand its implications regarding the modes of transmission and also regarding the precautions that need to be taken.
The letter was issued as the U.S. sees a spike in coronavirus cases. Well, President Trump is hosting a gathering of health and education leaders this afternoon to discuss reopening the nation's schools. Dr. Deborah Birx, the coronavirus response coordinator, tells Bloomberg you can expect to see testing at schools.
When we come to the conclusion that they need to be in school, then we need to really figure out how to make that a safe environment. I know many jurisdictions have worked on this. I think we also have to make sure that we have a way for teachers and administrators to be safe, and we need to have a way that households can be safe.
The president of the National Education Association says to maintain social distancing, schools will have to use lunchrooms, gyms, libraries, and trailers as classrooms. Some are considering rotating classes in mornings and afternoons, 3 days a week. Others may keep older pupils online and use high school classrooms to teach younger children who do not learn well via Zoom. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts.
Business and finance have always held surprises, but this is brand new.
The move risks fueling more demonstrations, and Stokes' concern that essential freedoms will be curbed.
Karen Muskow and Nathan Hager.
Chinese lawmakers approved national security legislation.
Expert navigation through uncharted territory.
Tell us the range of outcomes that we could see on that front.
Bloomberg Daybreak, weekday mornings at 5 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
The doors are opening.
When is that moment out in the distant future?
Some things will be as they were, others forever changed.
The restaurant industry will never be the same.
Follow every new development here on Bloomberg Radio.
What do we need in terms of maybe the new school of economic thought?
Because the next best thing to magic is insight.
It may take nearly a decade for the U.S. economy to recover.
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
In-depth analysis, concise.
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
London. Toolstation are here to help get your job safely started and finished, with over 60 branches within the M25. All open with social distancing and contactless click and collect from 5 minutes. And with 20,000 top trade quality products to choose from. Order online now for collection in London branches and get £5 off when you spend over £30 with the code LON530. So, get your job started at toolstation.com. Terms and conditions apply.
If you want to find out what the best laptop is for all those video conferences with your colleagues while sitting at your makeshift desk, you could ask a robot, or someone called Robert, or Miguel, or Haley, or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience.
Hi, you're talking to Ali on Shop Live.
Isn't it nice to get advice from another human being? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Start the conversation now with Shop Live.
The big Volkswagen event is now on. If you're after a new Volkswagen, we offer to pay your first 3 months finance payments and an additional £500 to £1,000 contribution to your deposit at 3.8% APR representative. Hello, sir. Do any take your fancy?
Well, yes, a new Golf or T-Cross. A Tiguan. No, Passat. Oh, I need to sit down.
Here, have a seat.
The big Volkswagen event. With every type of car on offer, you may have trouble choosing. With Solutions Personal Contract Plan until 12th of July, excludes e-Golf at participating retailers only. Minimum 46 months to receive 3 months finance payments. Indemnities may be required. Volkswagen Finance. Contact your local retailer to book an appointment.
What have you missed the most? A haircut? A visit to the shops?
Oh, you look lovely in that.
What about a nice lunch?
Fish and chips, please.
Salt and vinegar with that.
Or an afternoon in a pub garden? Fancy a casual bike ride? Or perhaps something a little more intense? Or maybe you want a relaxing day out. Whatever you've missed, get out there and enjoy it again safely. Find out how at gov.uk/enjoy summer safely.
Give yourself a Diet Coke break.
Whoa, just got a Moonpig reminder that it's your birthday Saturday.
Yeah, I set that up.
Oh, do you know what? I forget one time. Okay, I'm in the app.
Oh, the romantic card section.
I'm full of surprises. Now, what rhymes with babe?
How about just uploading a nice pic? No, wait, I'm not ready.
Hey, I love you from every angle. Now for the gifts. Oh, and flowers.
Heartfelt can happen anywhere with moonpig.com. Download the app now.
Staying current on college hoops starts here on the Eye on College Basketball podcast. CBS Sports columnists Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander bring you commentary, insider information, and statistical analysis covering the entire NCAA.
The amount of earning potential you could have had there, or if you had gone to play at any other place with a chance to play in the NCAA tournament, win a national championship, none of us would have faulted Cunningham for doing that, but he decided this is where he wants to be in the face of a postseason.
Search Eye on College Basketball on TuneIn to listen.
Breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. It is a down Tuesday with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all slumping. Let's head right over to the first word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. And here is Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. That's right. U.S. stocks in the red today with the Dow currently down 272 points. S&P's dropped 20. NASDAQ is lower by 36. The U.S. 10 yield at 0.64%. Gold is higher by 11. WTI crude futures are a little changed, and transports are down 82 points. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, Walmart, which gained 7.2%. Their Amazon Prime challenger is nearing its debut. Boeing and American Express led to the downside. After earnings, Paychex fell 4%. And in other news, Shake Shack fell 5.5%. Preliminary Q2 comp sales were down 49%. And Novavax soared as much as 40% as their COVID vaccine got $1.6 billion in U.S. funding. Wrapping things up, Levi Strauss reports after the bell. Live from the first breaking news desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie.
Okay, I thank you very much, Bill. And to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg-type squawk, SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It is indeed. Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. Well, Jason, we know American Express has been involved big time in helping out the small business owner for years. They created that Small Business Saturday, I think, back in 2010. Today's Business Week Small Business Survival Guide, we've got Amex added again with a perk to its card holders. Let's bring in Kate Crater. She's food editor at Bloomberg Pursuit. She's on the phone in New York City with a little bit more on what's going on. Kate Crater, Jason and I love when you join us. How are you?
Me too. Hi, you guys. Very happy to hear your voices.
Likewise. So tell us what's going on. We want to talk about restaurants in a moment, but tell us about what Amex is up to.
Yeah, Amex is doing something nice. They have committed over $200 million to a perk for cardholders, all cardholders, and it's up to a $50 benefit if you shop small. So for every $10 you spend, you get 50. You get not 50. That would be great. For every $10 you spend, you get $5 back up to 10 times. So it could be a $50 perk for using your American Express card to support small businesses, including restaurants, and that's a good thing.
And so
What's the idea? I mean, I think I understand the idea, but I mean, the idea is that restaurants, they need help here, Kate.
Yeah.
Boy, they need all the help. They really need all the help you can give them. And so there are, and most of them, or so many of them, are independently owned and small. And so if you use your American Express card, including Resi, which is now American Express's restaurant reservation platform, they have sort of moved to doing at-home delivery packages, and you can use your card and ordering food and get a $5 discount.
I think it's great. Because I think, it's something, Kate, Jason and I have talked about this since we've been in lockdown. We've thought about the local businesses, whether, especially in terms of restaurants who deliver, to really try and reach out to them to support them, because it's really been tough for them in terms of lifelines. And we forget, I think, as a community that, so many of those restaurants that are out there, they are truly, small businesses.
They really are. And, I got to do actually a story about how Chinese restaurants, like one small bit of good news in all the bad news about restaurants is how well neighborhood Chinese restaurants are coming back, in part because neighborhood supports delivery. And one place, Jing Fong on the Upper West Side, was doing 100% of the business they did on a rainy night that they would have done if their 70-seat dining room had been open. So it makes a difference. Ordering from restaurants makes a difference.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, but help us understand that, and help us understand that, Kate, because how sustainable is that for the broad restaurant industry, or is it really just limited to a certain segment? I know that we can't give specific numbers or predictions about that, but I do wonder, knowing the mechanics of food and restaurants as well as you do, I mean, how much hope is there for people that really can be at least a lifeline?
It's a lifeline. That's exactly the right word. It's not going to support every restaurant. And if you weren't in good shape going into the pandemic, you are probably not going to be in better shape on the other side of it. But I think the best restaurants and the ones that are really going to go onward are the ones who have figured out a sort of hybrid model where you have like a food delivery system that works, maybe a grocery or that kind of grocery delivery thing as well. And in some cases, outdoor dining does seem to be making a little bit of a difference, although we're having very crazy weather in New York. So you think you're going to go out to eat at 6 o'clock and then it pours rain at 4. So it couldn't be harder for restaurants right now. But some things like this American Express benefit for small businesses I really think it's going to encourage me to order an extra 1 or 2 times, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kate, because we talk about it at home all the time. I also do wonder, I know we've had some conversations with, some chefs and well-known chefs that even like the high end is embracing that takeout community when that wasn't something they did before.
No, they haven't. Danny Meyer certainly, he was so, as you know, he told us sort of dramatically he didn't think he would reopen before there was a vaccine, and now he's decided that, or probably it was part of his master plan all along, but he's crafting some really cool delivery options, and he's also said, actually on Bloomberg, that he sees like hospitality. He thinks people can consider hospitality in a new way that can include how you pick up food from Union Square Cafe. If you used to define hospitality as being within 4 walls, it can now be outside those 4 walls.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, the sort of different way that you react, or that you can interact, I should say. Kate, only about 40 seconds left. So what's the outlook for fine dining at this point? Are we still going to see a lot of restaurants close?
I'm afraid the answer to that is going to be yes, because they're not, like Daniel Hume told us, it didn't make sense. There wasn't like a huge hunger for 11 Madison Park delivery, nor was he interested in it. But I think some of these restaurants, in fact, I'm working on a story. I think some of these restaurants are finding a different way or a different model that might at least help them like try and make a go of it.
Bridge the gap. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed, Kate, and we'll look forward to that story as we look forward to all of your reporting that you put out there for Bloomberg Pursuits and Bloomberg Terminal and Bloomberg.com. Kate Crater.
We need some socially distanced Kate Crater time.
I know. I'm like, I'll go to a park, I'll sit 6 feet away, and
like
I just want to have a glass of wine with her and sit and be Kate Crater, food editor at Bloomberg Pursuits. Check out all of her great work on the Bloomberg Terminal and at Bloomberg.com. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Masser, Jason Kelly, and this is Bloomberg. Coming up, the chart of the day with Dave Wilson.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Selling pressure is intensifying on Wall Street. Even tech stocks have rolled over, turning the Nasdaq negative. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 276. The S&P is down 20. The Nasdaq down 39. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals is up 3%. It got a $450 million government contract to boost production of its experimental antibody therapy for COVID-19, with results from an early-stage study due this summer. United Airlines fears that rising COVID-19 infections in parts of the South and West could stall the recovery in U.S. travel. Executives reportedly told employees that bookings are down sharply at its Newark, New Jersey hub. Juul Labs reportedly is close to selling a San Francisco office tower that it bought last year. The e-cigarette maker continues to retrench following a backlash against flavored vaping products and is moving its headquarters to Washington, D.C. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
The world's financial decision makers connect on the Bloomberg Terminal. The buy side and the sell side together, collaborating across markets and countries in real time, sharing ideas, negotiating trades, and forming an influential network of over 325,000 financial professionals that helps power global markets. Isn't it time you join them? Request a demo at Bloomberg.com/professional.
If trying to figure out the
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
London. Toolstation are here to help get your job safely started and finished, with over 60 branches within the M25. All open with social distancing and contactless click and collect from 5 minutes. And with 20,000 top trade quality products to choose from. Order online now for collection in London branches and get £5 off when you spend over £30 with the code LON530. So, get your job started at toolstation.com. Terms and conditions apply.
If you want to find out what the best TVs are for family movie night when it's raining outside and you're comfy on your sofa, you could ask an algorithm, or someone called Al, or Priya, or Lewis, or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience.
Hi, it's Robin. Do you need some help finding the right tech?
Isn't it nice to get advice from another human being? They're just a click away. Go online to Shop Live at Curry's PC World.
False information about coronavirus is being spread everywhere. Popping up here, being shared there. Ping! Reaching and tricking more people with every share. They don't even understand the harm it can cause.
False information can be hard to spot. Make sure you know what you're sharing. Don't feed the beast. Visit sharechecklist.gov.uk. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Whoa, just got a Moonpig reminder that it's your birthday Saturday.
Yeah, I set that up.
Oh, do you know what? I forget one time. Okay, I'm in the app.
Oh, the romantic card section.
I'm full of surprises. Now, what rhymes with babe?
How about just uploading a nice pic? No, wait, I'm not ready.
Hey, I love you from every angle. Now for the gifts. Oh, and flowers.
Heartfelt can happen anywhere with moonpig.com. Download the app now.
Trey Wingo here from ESPN's Golic and Wingo. Every morning, Mike Golic Jr. and I sit down to discuss all the news, drama, and highlights spinning the sports world that day. And with TuneIn, you can hear us whenever and wherever you go. Just search Golic and Wingo and start listening today.
Did you know that with TuneIn's local radio feature, you can stream live FM and AM stations broadcasting in your area? Discover local news, talk, and music stations. Navigate to the local radio section under Browse to listen locally on TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Where do hockey and pop culture coexist?
So let me get this straight. You would be able to name more people nostalgically than currently? This doesn't
Come on,
you're crazy. I know.
Other podcast, Puck Soup NHL analyst Greg Wyshynski, Sean McAdoo, and Ryan Lambert chase the conversational biscuit up and down the ice, skating between serious discussion on what's happening in pro hockey to irreverent opinions on movies, fast food, and life in general. Search Puck Soup on TuneIn to listen.
Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Coming up, time for the chart of the day. Dave Wilson gave us a little bit of a tease. It's tech-themed, as is appropriate given everything that we've seen with tech, and as Charlie Pellet has been talking a lot about technology as well. Carol.
Yeah, ruling the trade, that's for sure. All right, let's get back to the aforementioned Charlie Pellet with a check on the world of business. Hey, Charlie.
Well, hello there. 28 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. Microsoft just turning lower, down 0.1%. Apple, Facebook keep on going. Apple up 0.3%. Facebook up by 1%. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all selling off on this Tuesday. S&P is now down 22 points. That is a drop of 0.7%. NASDAQ is now down 41, a drop of 0.4%. And the Dow is down 312 points, a drop right now of 1.1%. Stocks are slumping. Airlines and hotels particularly hard hit amid signs that the world economy has a long way to go to get back on track. As for the 10-year, the yield now 0.64%, up 10.30 seconds. Gold is up 0.7%, $17.96 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.7%, $40.36 a barrel on WTI. Nvidia is close to surpassing Intel in market value for the first time after shares of the graphics chip maker soared this year. Nvidia shares up again today. They're up 1.2% so far this year. Nvidia's up 69%. Intel shares down $1.03 right now, lower by 1.7%. 3:32 on Wall Street. That means it is time for the Small Business Report. And here's John Tucker.
Dennis Brown is a legendary name in martial arts. He's the man behind Dennis Brown's Shaolin Wushu Training Center in Maryland. The pandemic forced him to close, and Dennis has been trying to pivot with martial arts classes online. Dennis, pleasure to talk with you. It's certainly not like a class in person, but how's it going so far?
Well, at first I had to learn how to use Zoom. I had to learn what Zoom was. And first time I saw a screen with like 47 people on it, I got shook up because I'm teaching from my living room.
It's a little intimidating, I got to admit.
And people were coming in that I hadn't even thought. We had 6, 7, 8 classes a week, kids and adults and meditation and Tai Chi, and business is adjusting.
Did you have specific challenges as a result of being a minority-owned business?
We did have somewhat of a problem with that because our students, a lot of them just were at jobs where they were barely making ends meet as it was. And so that did affect the school in some ways.
Do you have any better clarity on when the doors can reopen since you're classified as a gym?
Well, we thought it was going to be a month ago. They said the gyms could open up. Well, first we had to find out what we were. because they didn't say karate schools or kung fu schools. They said gyms. Well, I've got like 40-some steps of things that I sent out to the students we're going to be doing. And I think that's going to allow us to open up hopefully within a week or two in some level.
Dennis Brown at the Dennis Brown Shaolin Wushu Training Center. Thanks very much. I'm John Tucker at your Bloomberg Small Business Report.
And we thank you very much, John Tucker. Again, recapping equities at just about the lows of the session. S&P down 21, down 0.7%. I'm Charlie Pellip. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg.
Island.
I did a Google search song with Godzilla lyric, and an Eminem song comes up. So,
boy,
isn't that lovely?
Wait, give us a.
Well, you know, I don't know what the folks in.
Is it Blue Oyster Cult?
Thank you, Carol.
All right, good job.
Yes, it
good
is.
Googling, Carol.
No, I had to. Well, I had to go down pretty far on the page. Very cool.
Goodness gracious.
That's really cool, Dave. So how does it get us?
So Godzilla or the tech stocks?
No, the song. The song.
The song is cool and the tech stocks are cool. Yeah, everything's cool. Except if you're concerned about how there's too much going into too few companies, and that seems to be the concern for some investors at this point. And, you know, when you look at the NASDAQ 100 index relative to the S&P 500, you really see that. You know, I had a chart out about a week and a half ago that showed the ratio between those two indexes was headed for a record. And indeed, we got there late last week, and it's carried over into this week. So what I did to kind of add a different spin to it was look at the two indexes, the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500, on an equal weighted basis. So, you know, the Amazons and the Microsofts and the Apples of the world, they count as much as the smaller companies in the NASDAQ 100. They don't get the extra clout that they have in the original index. And same goes for the S&P 500. And so when you run the numbers there, going all the way back to 2005 when the equal-weighted version of the NASDAQ 100 was introduced, you find out just how badly the NASDAQ 100 has lagged on an equal-weighted basis relative to the original index. As of yesterday, you were looking at a gain for the ratio between the two original indicators of 164%. The equal-weighted version, that ratio was only up 88%. So 76 percentage points behind. You know, that's quite the margin. And even though the two have kind of gone back and forth this year, I mean, it's the weight of years of trailing on that basis. So if you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
Dave, it's just a reminder again that, you know, some of these big tech names and how much they can move an index. And you have to remember that when you look at the index, even though there's many members, right, it can often, the movement, the trend line can often be concentrated in a few big names.
Absolutely. I ran the numbers yesterday. You find out that, you know, the 5 biggest companies by market value, the ones I mentioned, plus Alphabet, the owner of Google and Facebook, together 46% of the NASDAQ 100. That's more than twice their weight in the S&P 500. So it isn't just that there are fewer stocks. It's just that these companies are so much more dominant.
Yeah.
And that would explain, you know, why we're seeing it not only in the NASDAQ 100, but the NASDAQ more broadly.
Yeah, disproportionate influence for sure. All right, Dave Wilson, you'll be back with us in just a bit, right after the close, for your stock of the day. Carol?
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. You know, it's just perspective. Do. Well,
you mean Blue Oyster Cult or? these
Godzilla.
charts.
I grew up watching Godzilla movies. I have a baby brother who loved, I don't even remember, Channel 7, ABC, they used to do like Monster Week on their 4:30 movies, and we used to watch Godzilla and Mothra and all that good stuff.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Nice. All right, let's get back. Let's get back to World of National News headlines, where we will not talk about Godzilla, thankfully.
No, I have no Godzilla stories in my newscast. Health experts, including the nation's top infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci, says the U.S. is still battling the first wave of the coronavirus pandemic. Fauci says it wasn't long ago the nation was averaging about 20,000 new cases a day. He says we've gone way beyond that now.
2 days ago, it was at 57,500. So within a period of a week and a half, we've almost doubled the number of cases.
Fauci says he's not against reopening the country, but says it must be done in a very prudent manner with people social distancing and wearing masks. Demand for refined products is bouncing back from the pandemic in a very aggressive way, according to U.S. Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette, who spoke today with Bloomberg Radio.
I am so proud of this particular industry because of the innovations that they've been able to develop over the course of the last 2, 3, perhaps 4 decades that allows them to ramp up and down their production numbers very, very efficiently. So, I think as we continue to open up, we're going to have a great, great economic recovery, and energy is going to underpin almost all of it.
Brouillette admits the recent cancellation of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline was disappointing news, but an economically rational decision. President Trump's estranged niece paints a portrait of a braggart trained in deception by his distant and dysfunctional father. Those are her words. Mary Trump writes in her new book, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man, that she's been surprised by the number of people willing to enable her uncle. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
What's the true value of your custodial relationship? Ben Harrison of BNY Mellon's Pershing explains.
As sophisticated investors demand more from their advisors, advisory firms, in turn, need to rely on their custodian to help them grow their complex businesses. At BNY Mellon's Pershing, supporting the rapid growth of RIAs is our number one priority. We understand what it means to deliver true value to our clients who are looking for a custodian that is aligned with their best interest and delivers high-value solutions, all in an open architecture environment with flexibility, choice, and transparency. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength, resiliency, and high-touch service that BNY Mellon Pershing provides. When you work with Pershing, we put your business first. Can your custodian say that?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Pershing Advisor Solutions, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
Economics. All this doom and gloom was out there. How do we control coronavirus now? Listen to Claudia. She's a care worker.
I got the call from NHS Test and Trace. Told I'd been in contact with someone with coronavirus. Couldn't believe it. I had to isolate at home for 14 days. Couldn't go to work, couldn't go to the shops, couldn't get out to exercise. I didn't even feel ill. But you know what? To protect my family, my friends, my community, well, you just do it, don't you?
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
Whoa, just got a Moonpig reminder that it's your birthday Saturday.
Yeah, I set that up.
Oh, do you know what? I forget one time. Okay, I'm in the app.
Oh, the romantic card section.
I'm full of surprises. Now, what rhymes with babe?
How about just uploading a nice pic? No, wait, I'm not ready.
Hey, I love you from every angle. Now for the gifts. Oh, and flowers.
Heartfelt can happen anywhere with moonpig.com. Download the app now.
Where do sports, culture, and basketball nostalgia collide? On their podcast, Knuckleheads, NBA veterans Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles sit down with athletes, musicians, and entertainers to get brutally honest, totally unguarded conversations about everything from current events to untold stories from the golden era of sports.
O'Neal. You know that, right? I tried to tip dunk all the free throw line one time.
Search Knuckleheads on TuneIn to listen.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
This is Mike Golick from ESPN's Golick and Wingo. Every morning, Trey Wingo, my son, and I sit down to discuss all the news, drama, and highlights spinning the sports world that day. And with TuneIn, you can hear us whenever and wherever you go. Just search Golick and Wingo to start listening today.
To help keep you and your loved ones safe, TuneIn has the latest guidelines from the CDC. Outdoor gatherings, wash your hands and don't touch your face. Stay at least 6 feet from people you don't live with. Wear a mask. Don't share food, toys, or other items, and avoid shared surfaces. Participate in events like these infrequently. For the latest stories and updates on COVID-19, search Coronavirus News on TuneIn.
Did you know that with TuneIn's local radio feature, you can stream live FM and AM stations broadcasting in your area? Discover local news, talk, and music stations. Navigate to the local radio section under Browse to listen locally on TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour, Kenan Thompson. He's the longest-running cast member ever on Saturday Night Live, and it took him years to feel like he belonged.
It just never seemed real for so long. Like, I had such a hard time even associating myself being on the show for a long time. Like, I wouldn't watch, you know what I'm saying, just because I felt like I was ruining it.
Kenan Thompson joins us next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour. Listen to this episode on TuneIn today.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. Airlines and hotels particularly hard hit today. Stocks lower across the board. Stocks tumbling amid signs that the world economy's got a long way to go to get back on track. Almost 4 shares are falling on the S&P 500 index for everyone that gains. S&P is down 27 now, lower by just about 0.9%. The Dow is slumping 349, now lower by 1.3%. NASDAQ, which had been trading at a record for much of the session, lower now by 54 points, down by 0.5%. 10 years up 11/30 seconds with a yield of 0.63%. We've got gold up 0.7 now at $17.96 the ounce, and crude is down 0.7%, $40.33 a barrel. Recapping, equities lower close to the lows of the day. S&P down 27, down 0.9%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
Yeah, how about you let me drive?
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home? Honey, please, I'll do the driving. Drive on. Excuse me, I want to drive. Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the drive to the close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
It is time for the drive to the close. Matt Hanna is with us, portfolio manager and managing director of ESG investing at Summit Global Investments. They are based in Salt Lake City, and that's exactly where we find Matt on this Tuesday. Matt, nice to have you here on Bloomberg Radio with Jason and myself. First of all, how's it going in Salt Lake City? I have a niece there who's a doctor, and so we've been hearing stories, but I'm just curious how your world is going.
It's going quite, well overall. COVID cases are picking up, but the weather's nice. I actually just made it to some national parks in Utah recently and got to see some of the sights and some of the beauties. Kind of grounds you a little bit to see, what Mother Nature can do. So, Utah and Salt Lake City is a fantastic place.
And you're not feeling maybe some of the effects that some other places kind of south of you and west of you are seeing in terms of a surge?
It's not quite as bad as, say, what you're seeing like in Arizona and California, but we've definitely seen, pick up in say, mask usage. Perhaps not as much as I would like to see, but, people are taking it serious. But, I think, as a country, we still have a ways to go, but, hopefully we can, band together and overcome.
Yeah, I guess, and we hope so, certainly for your case, having lived through it all here in the New York metro area. I do wonder, Matt, how some of this shades your view on the economic bounce back, especially as we get ready to move into earnings season, and we'll start to hear from CEOs about their business, and hopefully we'll hear more about their outlooks.
Yeah, certainly. So, the COVID-19 world is certainly a new world for all of us, and we believe that's going to institute some dramatic consumer, shifts and just workplace shifts as well. For example, work from home is not going anywhere. And what does that mean? That means people are going to drive less. Commercial real estate demand is going to be hit. Industrials, in terms of sector, is going to be weaker. And, things like restaurants and entertainment, that's going to be weaker. And just in terms of just kind of a longer-term secular shift coming out of some of these behavioral shifts. But more in the near term, are we going to bounce back? That's, we all hope for a V-shaped recovery, but long-term history doesn't really provide for such a recovery. For example, even the global financial crisis, it took 5 years to go from 10% unemployment to 6%. We're sitting at 11. So, we're, thinking years, not months, maybe not 5 years, but certainly, we're not going to be back down to where we were anytime soon.
Well, Matt, one place where folks have not had to wait long or really didn't have to wait at all for a rebound was in tech stocks. Talk to us about some of the names that you like there, because the likes of Amazon, Microsoft, they've done great, generally speaking. And, this has been an area, we talk a lot about it with our stock experts internally and with smart investors like you. I mean, this has just been a phenomenon in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so one thing both Microsoft and Amazon have in common is cloud. That's certainly going to be picking up. Kind of the initial hit with COVID kind of delayed some cloud adoption, but in the long term, the COVID world certainly going to bring additional cloud adoption. That's certainly going to benefit big players such as Microsoft and Amazon. In fact, Microsoft actually saw 59% year-over-year growth in March. So we only expect that to accelerate. So you have that aspect. And then they both have other things going for them as well. Take Microsoft, what they call their productivity and business process segment. So think Microsoft Office, Microsoft Teams. I don't know about you guys, but I'm using that type of stuff a lot more than I ever did. For example, my firm, since we've been working from home, we've been using Microsoft Teams. And I know we're not alone in that adoption. That's certainly going to be helping, Microsoft. Then Amazon, I think we all know once you go Prime, you don't really go back. Right. Just the shipping. And they're bringing in a lot of new customers. So I'm really anxious to see, Prime numbers and what they're going to be doing. They have a lot of COVID expenses, so I'm not necessarily as concerned about kind of near-term quarter, but much more anxious to see, are they really bringing in new customers? And they converting, trials and whatnot, and I think they are.
It's funny. I had to pop in to pick up a prescription over the weekend in one of the, I think it was Duane Reade or Walgreens or something, and I did think about, it was interesting, a lot of the shelves were empty, but I don't know if you think about this, Jason, like
because of the lockdown, like I don't do any of that impulse buying, right? You know, you go in for a bottle of shampoo and you come out with a ton of more things. And I do wonder, but part of me kind of loves that. Just, okay, I need this, I'll buy it.
Surgical strike.
Right. When I need it. It's very much like inventory, just in time. And I like kind of buying things that way. And I do wonder, Matt, how you think about how consumers change going forward and what might be some of those lasting trends that ultimately either benefit or hurt an Amazon in the long term.
Well, I don't know about you, but I've been doing those impulse buys on Amazon, taking a look at my own credit card statements and seeing Amazon as I'm doing these small, impulse buys. But from a kind of, brick and mortar retail standpoint, overall, we like the bigger players. So think more like your Walmarts and Targets and Costco's of the world, much more than your smaller niche retailers. Ultimately, we think those smaller retailers are going to have quite a bit of trouble, both competing against the bigger boxes and e-commerce, but also just, frankly, the COVID world. They don't have the scale to ship the way Walmarts and Amazons do. So they might be in quite a bit of trouble. But the bigger box retailers, Walmart's up quite a bit today. Last I checked, it was about 6%. They should do quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, interesting discussion. Thank you so much for your insights, Matt Hanna, Portfolio Manager, Managing Director of ESG Investing for Summit Global Investments, joining us on the phone from beautiful Salt Lake City. It is a very pretty city.
It's a beautiful city. It's really a beautiful city.
And then you leave Salt Lake City, you go up to Park City and Deer Valley. Amazing
I haven't done
skiing.
that. I've only been in the Salt Lake City area.
You are missing out.
I know.
It is.
I can only imagine.
It's one of the great trips because, especially when you go skiing out west versus, flying to Denver and then having to drive a couple hours, you can you can land at noon. It takes you 45 minutes to get to Park City. You're on the slopes for the back half of the day. It's incredible.
I just have to say,
when people used to travel and fly.
What? I don't remember.
Back in the day.
But I do love, you go out west and just the space and the mountains. Like, I feel like for the first time, sometimes I can just breathe, right? And it just feels so good. All right. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Coming up, listen, we just got about 3.5 minutes left in today's trading session. It's definitely been one where we see investors taking a bit of a break after yesterday's run, kind of more virus headlines, realizing it's going to take the economy a little bit longer to get back on track. And then, Jason, we're going to get into earnings, and that's going to be really big time shaping the trade. So stick around. We've got those closing numbers and some of the movers and shakers on this Tuesday.
You may not be getting on planes.
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
In line with government guidelines, face coverings are now compulsory on public transport. At Asda, you can get a 4-pack of Prima disposable face coverings for £2.80, or a 2-pack of washable face coverings from £2.50. Asda, we're all in this together. Selected stores subject to availability.
And action!
I was offered one.
Cut. That's not on the script.
I was offered one. Get in.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was offered one.
Come, boy. I was offered one. Don't take our word for it. 9 out of 10 people said they were offered a great value deal with O2. Get yours today, in-store, online, or by phone.
I was offered one too. O2 Retail Exit Survey 309 of 348 agreed with the statement. O2 offered me a great value deal. For full verification, see o2.co.uk/terms.
When you're buying tech online and you want to make sure you get exactly what you need, would you rather talk to an algorithm? Or to someone called Al, or Sean, or Luth, or Ange, or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience.
Hey, I'm Ali. How can I help?
Isn't it nice to get expert advice from another human being before you buy? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
What would the world be like if we listened more? At Honda, our ears are always open to new ideas. Oh, there's one now, knocking on our eardrum. What's that? What if we made a car with cameras instead of wing mirrors? A robot mower that knows when it's time to cut the grass. A self-balancing motorcycle. And what if by 2022, all of our mainstream cars were hybrid or electric? Huh. Great idea. Thanks, ears. Honda. The power of dreams.
Today at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Closing bell.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. It was a down day on Wall Street. Stocks slumped. Airlines and hotels particularly hard hit amid signs the world economy has a long way to go to get back on track. Sound of the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Almost 4 shares fell on the S&P 500 index. For everyone that gained, the tech-heavy NASDAQ gauges dropped from a record intraday high in the afternoon. A losing session there at or near session lows. S&P slumped 34 points, down 1.1%. NASDAQ retreating from yesterday's record, down 89 points, a drop of 0.9%. The Dow down 396 points, down 1.5%. A lot of those losses really coming in the past 15 minutes of trading. The 10-year up 12.30 with a yield of 0.63%. Gold up $12 the ounce, up 0.7%, $17.97 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.7%, $40.35 a barrel. A lot of concerns about the U.S. economy and the potential rebound. As for that rebound and how long it might take, Matt Hanna is portfolio manager at Summit Global Investments. He was our guest moments ago right here on Bloomberg Business Week.
Yeah, we all hope for a V-shaped recovery, but the long-term history doesn't really provide for such a recovery. For example, even the global financial crisis, it took 5 years to go from 10% unemployment to 6%. We're sitting at 11. So, we're, thinking years, not months. Maybe not 5 years, but certainly, we're not going to be back down to where we were anytime soon.
On a down day for the rest of the market, Tesla shares advanced. Morgan Stanley analysts lifted their bull case price target for Tesla to $2,070 after, quote, an extraordinary rally that saw the stock overshoot a previous best case scenario of $1,200, but they still don't recommend buying Tesla shares. Today we saw Tesla up 1.3% at $1,389. Recapping equities lower, S&P down 34, a drop of 1.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Whoa, yeah, what I say.
Your next move will be your last.
Nobody move a muscle.
Damn, Stippy, you got the move.
And I'm moving on from town to town.
Time is money. Let's go. Come on, move it.
Shake it up.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers, with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Yes, indeed. Time to take a look at some of the stocks on the move on the Tuesday trade. And you heard Charlie breaking down those equity averages. We did see some selling, and the selling picking up as we got closer into that closing bell, and we did finish pretty much at our lows of the session. So what does it mean for the S&P 500? Big picture of those large cap names. Well, most of them were down. 431 names to the downside on this Tuesday. 72 higher, 2 unchanged, Jason. So, yeah, that was the trade. And different from what I wasn't here yesterday, but I did read about it. I mean, it was definitely a much more risk-on trade yesterday. And Thank you, China. Are you smiling? Are you laughing?
I'm just laughing. It just reminded me. Did you ever see the movie Waiting for Guffman?
No. You've talked about this movie.
There's a great line where the Eugene Levy character says, people say, you must have been the class clown. And I say, I wasn't the class clown, but I sat next to the class clown and I studied him. And so the idea that you're like, I wasn't on the show yesterday, but I did see some things. Sorry.
But I studied it.
Yes, but I studied the market in any case.
You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. And you're always so read in, even when you're not here. I had to tell you to stop reading your messages.
You did. You're like, stop reading. Put your phone down. Okay, where do you want to start?
I'd love to start with UAL because that was one of your worst performers. United Airlines, of course, United Airlines Holdings. That stock was down. I mean, the airline stocks obviously have gotten punished pretty severely over the course of this pandemic. That stock down almost 8% again today. I mean, look, there are real concerns about reopening and especially movement as you see things like New York State adding more states to that quarantine list of, look, if you go there and if you're either from there, when you get to New York, you got to quarantine yourself. Or if you're from New York and you go there, when you come back, you got to quarantine yourself. So that's a real issue when it comes to movement.
Yeah, exactly. You and I were talking about travel and just, it really limits you if you're going to go somewhere and what you can or what you will do. You got to think about this. It's not just going on a trip. You have to think about the 2 weeks, maybe going into it, maybe coming out of it in terms of the virus. I do want to mention Facebook. We're going to talk about Facebook in a little bit because it's a big day. Stock, little move. I mean, it was up 7.4% at one point, was down about 1.5%. Talk about a swing. Ending the day just up a hair, up 0.25 percentage point at $240.86 a share. But this was a big day. Facebook getting together with civil rights groups to talk about speech policies, and a civil rights organization criticizing Facebook following that meeting today. And they met with the company's top executive board. They claimed the company has not taken seriously outside demands to better police its service from hate speech and misinformation. Those are pretty strong words.
Yeah, sounds like that meeting didn't go great.
No, exactly.
And, as you say, the top executive, Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg, she's been guest on this show, they were, in that meeting. So they're clearly taking it seriously, but those groups not hearing what they want. I mean, we've been headed for this place for a long time, I feel like.
Yes.
And we ignored it. And like every big conversation we're having around social justice, around racism, around systemic and structural racism, it's been out there and it's been there, but we've been like, we're just going to look past this a little bit. But these conversations are now happening.
I want to raise my hand here because I want to ask you something, because I've been thinking about this, and something came across Twitter about, I can't remember the phrase, but about culture and cancel culture, right? And so I came across this Cal Poly State University author and ethics professor, and he said, we look at the good things about diversity in society, inclusion, but when we look at speech, we're not so quick to say diversity in speech is okay. And we have been having this conversation at home, like, when can you just say, this is my opinion on things, versus when do we say, well, wait, that's wrong? But like, who is the arbiter of what's wrong, right? Like, this is a tricky time. And those social media platforms, and I think this is what Facebook is fighting, is like, this is what we're about. But there's still some problems.
Yeah, and I talk to, as do you, sort of leaders and CEOs all the time. I talked to a big investor earlier today who was, very thoughtful about all this, but also raising the question of like, okay, but what's too far? Where does it end? And I think we're all of the opinion that, it's got to swing back the other way, but it'll be interesting to see where that goes. All right, let's look at volatility real quick. The VIX up about 5% today, closing at 29.35.
All right, Dave, you're up.
Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for a price on Wilson.
Open up the door, it's Dave. Who?
Dave.
Hey,
Hey, Mr. Wilson. Let's get to Dave Wilson's stock of the day, and the ticker, Dave, LVGO.
Livongo Health. That's short for living on the go. Livongo works with companies to set up programs for employees suffering from diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and other ailments. They involve using internet-connected devices and online coaches to deliver what are called applied health signals designed to help people manage their conditions. Livongo was founded in 2008 and went public about a year ago. The ticker, as you mentioned, Carol, LVGO. The shares swung on either side of their initial price of $28 until about 3 months ago when they began taking off. Since then, the price has risen more than fourfold. Livongo set a record today after providing preliminary results for the second quarter. Revenue more than doubled from a year earlier and beat the company's own forecast, as well as analyst average estimate in a Bloomberg survey. Livongo cited data science investments to help the company attract and retain participants. Put that all together, the shares were up almost 21%, and that was the biggest gain since their first day of trading last July.
We should get the CEO on. This stock's up 274%. I do wonder if this is the future in terms of tracking your health.
Yeah.
And I guess companies actually tap into their services. So this is a pretty interesting stock, Dave.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
That's why it's the stock of the day.
Absolutely.
It should be the stock of the day. Oh, wait. Hold on a second. All right. Dave Wilson, thank you so much. Always bringing us some interesting ideas. He stumped Paul Sweeney yesterday, by the way. Carol introduced his stock in the entertainment arena, in entertainment media, that Paul Sweeney didn't know. In any case. All right. Let's get back to San Francisco. Ed Baxter is there. He's got World National Headlines. Hey, Ed.
Hey, guys. Yeah, Dave always has a reason for what he does. Always. U.S. rhetoric aimed at China has hit new levels today.
China is engaged in a whole-of-state effort to become the world's only superpower by any means necessary.
FBI Director Christopher Wray says it even extends to the fight against coronavirus.
At this very moment, China is working to compromise American healthcare organizations, pharmaceutical companies, and academic institutions conducting essential COVID-19 research.
And says the FBI is opening up new counterintelligence case every 10 hours. Companies all over the globe, schools all over the globe trying to figure out how to best practice for reopening. In the U.S., Dr. Anthony Fauci says slowly.
If we're going to open up safely for the economy and for employment, we need to do it in a way that's well thought out and cautious, but nonetheless continue to proceed.
He says it cannot be all or nothing at all. How about schools? Well, Dr. Deborah Birx in a one-on-one interview with Bloomberg's Kevin Cirilli.
To routinely screen their student body. And I think that is very possible. And then how we take that into K through 12 that need it.
So that is frequent testing and surveillance. Now, we'll be playing much larger excerpt from that interview here on Bloomberg Business Week at 5:30 Wall Street time. And New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says child care may be ready to reopen as early as Monday. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Working from home, take a little more time for breakfast. Tom Keene.
How will this pandemic change your NASDAQ?
Jonathan Farrow.
When you look at that sector, some of these companies won't exist, will they?
And Lisa Abramowitz.
They've only continued to increase the delinquencies and defaults.
Crunch data topped with fresh world news. Bloomberg Surveillance. Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. And now, watch us on Bloomberg Television.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. But he's a part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. No time for tired. Nothing can disable this love. He needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies? Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
reopen.
Decisions. Clearing. Isn't it great? So much choice. But hey, listening to me on your desktop isn't getting anything done. You need to take this Tuesday evening by the scruff of the neck. Ignore this rainy weather and carve your path to success, which begins just down the road in Southampton at Solent University. After 3 years here, you don't just get a degree. You get a ton of support, real-world experience and connections, and interview fuel. That's why we're in the top 25 for student satisfaction in the Complete University Guide. At Solent University, we're ready for the future. Apply now at solent.ac.uk/clearing.
And action!
I was offered one.
Cut. That's not on the script.
I was offered one. Get in.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was offered one.
Come, boy. I was offered one.
Don't take our word for it. 9 out of 10 people said they were offered a great value deal with O2. Get yours today, in-store, online, or by phone.
I was offered one too. O2 Retail Exit Survey 309 of 348 agreed with the statement. O2 offered me a great value deal. For full verification, see o2.co.uk/terms.
London. Toolstation are here to help get your job safely started and finished. With over 60 branches within the M25. All open with social distancing and contactless click and collect from 5 minutes. And with 20,000 top trade quality products to choose from. Order online now for collection in London branches and get £5 off when you spend over £30 with the code LON530. So, get your job started at toolstation.com. Terms and conditions apply.
If you want to find out what the best laptop is for all those video conferences with your colleagues while sitting at your makeshift desk, you could ask a robot, or someone called Robert, or Sue, or Sanjay, or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience.
Hi, you're talking to Ali on Shop Live.
Isn't it nice to get advice from another human being? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
As shops open up again, how do we all stay safe? Fontaine runs a craft store.
We've made the shop COVID safe. If you can't keep 2 metres apart, make sure it's 1 metre with extra precautions. Know the number of customers allowed in at any one time. Use the hand sanitizer at the entrance and use contactless payments. I'm loving serving customers again, but please, to keep us open, we've all got to keep to the guidelines.
Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Thanks to National Lottery players, the Emerald Centre are now providing emergency food supplies and support for people in Bedfordshire like Alan. Thank you. And £600 million of National Lottery funding is on its way to thousands more local projects in England and across the UK during these exceptional times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen.
Whoa, just got a Moonpig reminder that it's your birthday Saturday.
Yeah, I set that up.
Oh, do you know what? I forget one time. Okay, I'm in the app.
Oh, the romantic card section.
I'm full of surprises. Now, what rhymes with babe?
How about just uploading a nice pic? No, wait, I'm not ready.
Hey, I love you from every angle. Now for the gifts. Oh, and flowers.
Heartfelt can happen anywhere with Moonpig.com. Download the app now.
Want to get all your college sports news in one place? Turn on the Yahoo Sports College podcast to hear experts Dan Wetzel, Pat Forty, and Pete Thamel break down the latest NCAA stories from the football field to the basketball court and beyond.
I think Reggie should do a video of him running to Heritage Hall and front flipping in. Remember that famous front flipping the end zone that he did? Wasn't he the one who made that popular?
I think he was.
I think he was, yeah.
Search Yahoo College Sports Podcast on TuneIn to listen.
4 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pelleto. Retreat on Wall Street. Stocks end the session close to session lows. 5-day rally comes to a screeching halt. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all lower. Gold is now at the highest since 2011. Airlines and hotels were particularly hard hit amid signs that the world economy's got a long way to go to get back on track. S&P 500 index dropped 34 points, down 1.1%. The Dow tumbled 396 points, down 1.5%. Nasdaq down 89, a drop of 0.9%. 10-year up 13.30 seconds with a yield of 0.64%. Gold at $17.95 the ounce, up 0.6, and a retreat for crude down 0.7%, $40.35 a barrel. Recapping, equities lower. S&P down 34, a drop of 1.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you very much for that update. Appreciate that. Well, there's been lots of headlines about the virus today, including Novavax. They got a bunch of funding to support their large-scale manufacturing of their vaccine candidate. So lots going on. Let's get our daily update on the virus with our go-to voice on this. Every week we like to check in with him. Dr. Ian Lustbader is Clinical Associate Professor of Medicine at NYU Langone Medical Center. He joins us once again on the phone in New York City. How are you?
Hi, thanks, guys, very much. Doing well, busy with patient care, and hope you guys are doing well also.
Yeah, we are. And it's interesting that you say patient care. I mean, my team knows this, and I've talked a little bit on air, that we had to deal with kind of a hospital system over the weekend and get kind of educated, if you will, on ER rooms and processes, and everybody's okay. But it really was eye-opening for us. But it made us realize that hospitals and doctors and the medical community, Ian, are really trying to get back to normal as much as they can, especially in the New York metro area. Doesn't mean the virus is gone completely, but they're trying to bring the systems back.
Right. I think any interaction with the healthcare system can be very stressful. It's unfamiliar to many patients and frightening and unfamiliar. And I think we all try to do our best to make people feel as comfortable as they can be. But it's waiting for test results and having tests, and all that can be very stressful for people who fortunately don't interact with the healthcare system every day.
That's exactly right. And I do wonder, and this is based in part on Carol's on-the-ground reporting on this. And, Ian, you've talked to us about this before, sort of the segregating of patients and that ability to, tend to people who need medical care that has nothing to do with the virus. What are we learning that's maybe the most important for people to understand about how that works generally?
Well, we try to keep the areas really COVID-free. It's sort of a paradox where you want to see sick people and try and help sick people, yet you try not to expose patients coming in for testing, say it's CAT scan testing or colonoscopy testing or whatever else it may be. All of those elective procedures, people do get a nasal swab, which is fairly accurate, and many patients come in for antibody testing, thinking either they had it in the past or a family member had it. So we do try and screen people to make that testing as safe as can be. But obviously in the emergency room, that's a little harder to do because you've got people with abdominal pain and chest pain and a host of other things, in addition to people who have a cough or fever or symptoms that could be COVID-related. So, those patients are attempted to be segregated somewhat so that it's not dangerous to come into the emergency room where people could potentially pick up an infection. And so efforts are made to bend over backwards to not only take care of acutely ill patients, chest pain, shortness of breath, abdominal pain, et cetera, but patients who may have COVID. And fortunately, that number of patients, at least in the Northeast, is really beginning to drop down a lot. What we're seeing a lot of is post-COVID symptoms, ongoing pain or chest pains or cough or abnormal liver function tests. But it's a delicate balance, and it's the same delicate balance as getting back to work, where patients and people, want to go back to work, but what's the right distance? Is it 3 feet? Is it 6 feet? Do masks work? The viruses are very small. Can't they go through the masks? What about coughing? So people have a lot of those questions, and we don't have perfect answers, but we know a lot, and we're learning more.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. We caught up with our Stephanie Baker, who has had the virus. She had a bunch of antibody tests. She talks about taking 5 tests and getting, 3 positives and 2 negatives. But it went into the whole world of antibody testing. As we know, there's lots of tests out there. I do wonder, about the antibody tests, how do you see their usefulness in this situation, Dr. Lustbader?
That's a great question. So in terms of testing, if people are symptomatic, if they have a cough, if they have a fever, if they have gastroenteritis, there are really a number of ways that COVID can present and really can seem like any other virus, influenza virus. So really the best way to make that diagnosis is a nasal swab. And those are fairly accurate, somewhere in the 80% range, but they're not 100% accurate. And part of that depends on how well it's being done. Are you swabbing the area well? That's that nasal swab. And, of course, we have some other tests, which are saliva tests. All of those are not 100%. And sometimes we do have to, if people are suspicious, we will test them more than once. And that's why you can get a negative and then potentially a positive. And even patients who are hospitalized, sometimes it took a third test, knowing that the patient had a pneumonia and was classic COVID, for the test to really be positive. People are traveling to visit relatives. They say, gosh, I don't want to injure my elderly relative, so a nasal swab would be helpful. The antibody tests really turn positive after several weeks, and we think last several months, maybe longer, hopefully protective or at least partially protective. So if someone was ill and think that they might have had COVID and it was never diagnosed, that's where an antibody test can say, yes, you know what, you were positive.
Right.
Right.
And we think that that's protective, at least for a certain period of time, in terms of getting this round of virus, not getting it again.
Well, and that's what we heard. It is finite, is basically what we've heard from Dr. Anthony Fauci. All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Ian Lustbader, our go-to doc on the virus. He, of course, is at NYU's Langone Medical Center. He'll be back with us in just a few minutes. We're going to talk a little vaccines because that obviously is top of mind. And we had some stocks move on some vaccine news, and eager to get his take on what the latest and greatest is on that front.
And I'm curious what he has to say about some countries seemingly doing better than we are.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what his take is on that. All right, we'll come back to you in just a moment. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massar, Jason Kelly, and we are Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Whether it was just profit-taking or new concern about the economy's prospects for recovery, the stock averages retreated. The Dow down 397, the Nasdaq 90, the S&P 34. The caution flags came from the Atlanta Federal Reserve president. Raphael Bostic says the new spike in coronavirus cases could threaten the pace of the economic recovery, with businesses and consumers putting spending on hold. United Airlines is seeing that, a risk of the just-taken-off rebound in air travel stalling because of the new cases, especially after seeing bookings at its hub in Newark, New Jersey drop with new quarantine rules in the area. Facebook executives didn't impress Free Press, one of the civil rights groups they met today. The group's co-CEO says Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg and Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg refused to commit to a timeline to remove disinformation and hate speech. That's prompted the groups to have organized an advertising boycott of the company. Joan Doniger, Bloomberg Radio.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when it's dry or windy. Be careful burning yard waste, because wildfires can even start in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
COVID-19. Can the world reopen for business?
Give us a sense of how you're ramping up and taking care of folks on the ground.
What's the long-term impact?
Why will we not see a V-shaped recovery?
When will there be a cure or a vaccine?
How can you model that at a time when it's unclear whether we're going to see a resurgence in viruses?
The answers will emerge.
Can you give us a sense of timing?
And you'll find them here. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening. The best of Bloomberg Business Week every...
Picture this. Small businesses on eBay are...
ploughing on, boxing up goods and rolling them out, shipping kettles,
instruments to kids,
art for walls,
treats to pets, shorts for sunny weekends,
to brighten up one British home at a time.
Thousands of small businesses on eBay are helping to keep the nation going. They are individually brilliant, stronger as one. Buy, sell, eBay.
London. Toolstation are here to help get your job safely started and finished, with over 60 branches within the M25. All open with social distancing and contactless click and collect from 5 minutes. And with 20,000 top trade quality products to choose from. Order online now for collection in London branches and get £5 off when you spend over £30 with the code LON530. So, get your job started at toolstation.com. Terms and conditions apply.
When you're buying tech online and you want to make sure you get exactly what you need, would you rather talk to a computer or to someone called Colin, or Ethan, or Kai, or Rachel, or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience?
Hey, it's Ali. Can I give you a hand?
Isn't it nice to get expert advice from another human being before you buy? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
The big Volkswagen event is now on. If you're after an approved used Volkswagen, for a limited time, you can buy one with 2 years warranty, 2 years MOT cover, 2 years roadside assistance, and 2 services all included at 8.9% APR representative. Hello, sir. Do any take your fancy?
I need to sit down.
The big Volkswagen event. With every type of car on offer, you may have trouble choosing. With Solutions Personal Contract Plan until 12th of July. At participating retailers on used Volkswagens aged between 90 days and 60 months only. Indemnities may be required. Warranty valid for vehicles up to 100,000 miles at activation. MOT cover is up to 2 years and is underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Volkswagen Finance. Contact your local retailer.
What have you missed the most? A haircut? A visit to the shops?
Oh, you look lovely in that.
What about a nice lunch?
Fish and chips, please.
Salt and vinegar with that.
Or an afternoon in a pub garden? Fancy a casual bike ride? Or perhaps something a little more intense? Or maybe you want a relaxing day out. Whatever you've missed, get out there and enjoy it again safely. Find out how at gov.uk/enjoy summer safely.
Thanks to National Lottery players, the Emerald Centre are now providing emergency food supplies and support for people in Bedfordshire like Alan. Thank you. And £600 million of National Lottery funding is on its way to thousands more local projects in England and across the UK during these exceptional times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen.
Want to get all your college sports news in one place? Turn on the Yahoo Sports College podcast to hear experts Dan Wetzel, Pat Forty, and Pete Thamel break down the latest NCAA stories from the football field to the basketball court and beyond.
I think Reggie should do a video of him running to Heritage Hall and front flipping in. Remember that famous front flip in the end zone that he did? Wasn't he the one who made that popular?
I think he was. I think he was, yeah.
Search Yahoo College Sports Podcast on TuneIn to listen.
Live to New York, Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Well, coming up, we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Ian Lustbader, talking about vaccines especially.
Yeah.
So looking forward to hearing his latest thoughts on that, Carol.
The race is on. All right, let's get back to your top business stories and news after the closing bell. Here is once again Charlie Pellet.
Thank you very much, Carol Master. Let's begin with some after-the-bell headlines. News from Levi Strauss. Shares lower now by 2.7%. Second quarter net revenue 4.1% below estimates. Levi Strauss also trimming 700 jobs. It was a down day today for the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. A retreat on Wall Street. S&P 500 index fell 34 points, down 1.1%. The Dow down 396 points, down 1.5%. NASDAQ slumped 89 points, back from a record, down by 0.9%. A lot of concerns about the economic recovery. Airlines and hotel stocks were among the hardest hit names. The 10-year up 12/32 with a yield of 0.63%. Gold up 0.6%, $17.95 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.5%, $40.41 a barrel. So a 5-day winning streak comes to a screeching halt for the U.S. stock market today. Lisa Shallett is Chief Investment Officer for Wealth Management at Morgan Stanley. And on Bloomberg Television this morning, she told us stimulus hopes have been fueling the market's recent gains.
I think that the market at these levels is implying that we get a deal of fiscal stimulus of $750 to $1 trillion, by July 30th. And yet, there seem to be people in Congress who are balking at that. That could be another setback for the U.S. on a relative basis.
Boeing's grounded 737 MAX suffered a second cancellation in 3 months by a single buyer as lessor Avalon Holdings scrapped more orders, a sign of the withering impact on the jet from the collapse in travel. Dublin-based Avalon says it's dropping the purchase of 27 of the narrow-body planes due for delivery through 2022. That adds to 75 that it had already abandoned back in April. Today we saw Boeing shares lower by 4.8%. Again, recapping a down day for the U.S. stock market. S&P fell 34, down 1.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thanks a lot. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Well, as I mentioned at the end of the first part of our conversation with Dr. Ian Lustbader, Dr. Anthony Fauci, he talked to a conference today hosted by the NIH and talked about what vaccines might do. Well, they're going to be limited. Let's take a listen.
We're going to assume that there's a degree of protection, but we have to assume that it's going to be finite. It's not going to be like a measles vaccine. So there's going to be follow-up in those cases to see if we need a boost.
And that, of course, is Dr. Anthony Fauci. That voice has become all too familiar to all of us tracking this. So synthesize this for us, Dr. Ian Lustbader, still with us, what you heard from Dr. Fauci and what you think we need to know about the development of vaccines. Because, listen, this is going to be the thing that really brings us back to the next normal.
The immune system is very complex. Viruses are small and mutate. And getting a good protective antibody response is a challenge. We do know there are some antibodies that are long-lasting. Typically, certainly if you get the disease, mumps, measles, rubella, smallpox, all of those vaccines really produce pretty long-lasting results. Other viruses are really hard to get an effective, long-lasting antibodies that are protective. HIV, hepatitis C. People are still working on even the common cold, influenza, rhinoviruses. So all of these are challenges to create a vaccine that creates an effective immune response or antibody response from the patient. And that's really the same situation with this strain of coronavirus, COVID-19. Many pharmaceutical companies, 140, 170 of them, are trying different approaches, some with what are called adjuvants, that are other substances designed to enhance the immune response. Messenger RNA we talked about on past shows where the mRNA is injected and uses your own cells to form antibodies to the spike protein. Inactivated viruses where they kill the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus, and this sort of weakened virus generates an immune response. Other vectors, adenoviruses used to enhance the immune response. So all of these companies are trying slightly different versions to get the better mousetrap. And we don't really know what is the better mousetrap, and maybe we will need to use several different kinds of vaccines. And what Dr. Fauci is saying is that even if you get antibodies, it's unclear how strong they will be, how effective, and how long they will last. It is hard to understand why the body produces antibodies that begin to fade over time as opposed to other antibodies that are lifetime immunity. So his concern, of course, is that people may need a yearly vaccine, like a flu vaccine, or that if the virus mutates, we may every year have to develop a slightly different strain. Yeah. But that spike protein is very common to coronaviruses, and hopefully antibodies to that should provide a wider range. Even if there is some mutation, hopefully that will still provide some protection. But all of these are, unfortunately, many months off and many more cases and much more illness, unfortunately, to go until we get to really not only an effective vaccine, but one that's manufactured and widely dispensed.
Every time you talk, I always have like 20 more questions off of it. It's never enough time. So I have a question for you. We had a guest on, I think it was with David Weston earlier on Bloomberg, who basically said if we're opening up bars, we should be able to open up schools. Do you agree that it will be safe to open up schools, especially in the New York Metro?
Yeah, most bars are fairly crowded where people are speaking at a loud volume, inches away from each other, and that is really ideal for a super spreader event. I think for schools and colleges, if you can create some distance, and if people are not speaking loudly other than the teacher, and maybe they should be wearing a mask in part or using a microphone to amplify, I think you probably can get schools in a reasonably safe environment, air cleaners, UV filters, open windows, or good airflow. I think it's reasonably safe. I think we do need to get back to that. But we do know there are some, unfortunately, high-risk environments, and yelling at a loud volume, even with a mask, in a closed space is probably one of the least safe environment, and that may need to wait until we get a more widespread vaccine or herd immunity, which is a whole other discussion.
We will figure this. We will figure this out, though. We've only got 20 seconds. We will figure out how to live with this.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we have to, and already we're making some progress. I think New York and the Northeast is making progress. The South, unfortunately, needs to go through what we went through. I wish they didn't, had they taken some more serious precautions. But eventually, I think they will reach where we are, which is a better place. But unfortunately, their ICUs are stretched, and it will be a challenge over the next few months.
We're definitely seeing that already. Ian, thank you so much. Dr. Ian Lusbader, Clinical Associate Professor of Medicine at NYU Langone Medical Center. Jason, once again, on the phone in New York City.
All right, let's head out to San Francisco. Ed Baxter's there. He's got all your world and national headlines. Hey, Ed.
Oh, all right, Jason, thank you so much. Some depressing figures are coming out of the coronavirus experts today. WHO Director Tedros Ghebreyesus.
It took 12 weeks for the world to reach 400,000 cases of COVID. Over the weekend, there were more than 400,000 cases across the globe.
That was over the weekend. He said it is a rapid acceleration. U.S. right on top of the pack.
Within a period of a week and a half, we've almost doubled the number of cases.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says reopening has to be very slow.
We have a situation right now that we've got to proceed to continue to try and open, but in a safe, measured, very prudent manner.
And New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says child care may be ready to open as early as Monday.
It's really important to tell people that child care centers will be up and running as soon as Monday, because for some parents that's going to be very, very important to their immediate plans.
Yeah, you have to make plans. He says opening up new case and the U.S. is opening, let me go back. Arizona is reporting a rise of 3.6% for the fourth day in a row. Infections came in below that 1 week average. And the U.S. is openly accusing China again of trying to power the world.
We've now reached the point where the FBI is opening a new China-related counterintelligence case about every 10 hours.
Yeah, that is FBI Director Dr. Christopher Wray. And 10 cases, he goes as far to say, as China's trying to subvert U.S. efforts to fight the coronavirus. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, makes innovation happen. The university helped biomedical engineering professor Tara Alvarez launch a startup that may revolutionize vision therapy.
Our startup through NJIT is called Ocular Motor Technology. We create virtual reality vision therapy in a head-mounted display. So it's gaming, and basically we're sugarcoating the therapy so that children and young adolescents don't even realize they're doing therapy. To accomplish this, we need biomedical engineers, which are here on NJIT campus, computer scientists, artists, people that are into story development, and then we're collaborating with a lot of the large pediatric medical centers. This this idea of a startup culture is extremely important to not just NJIT and the National Science Foundation, but also to the U.S. as a societal whole.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. The hard part was determining that I was going to do it, but I definitely didn't do it alone.
At age 30, with the help of her mentor, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
I have a mentor, Maria. She convinced me to continue my education and to finish what I started to get my diploma. Just never judges. She's a true role model. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
COVID-19.
And action.
I was offered one.
Cut. That's not on the script.
I was offered one. Get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was offered one.
Come, boy. I was offered one.
Don't take our word for it. 9 out of 10 people said they were offered a great value deal with O2. Get yours today, in-store, online, or by phone.
I was offered one too. O2 Retail Exit Survey 309 of 348 agreed with the statement. O2 offered me a great value deal. For full verification, see o2.co.uk/terms.
Short on time? Don't worry. You can still get your cook on with Asda. Get 3 Asda ready meals for just £5.50. Like our beef lasagna or our tomato and mozzarella panette bake. Hang up your oven gloves. We've got dinner covered. Asda. Save money, live better. Selected stores and lines subject to availability. Meals 400 grams, £2.10 each.
If you want to find out what the best washing machine is to get rid of all those muddy stains while you sit comfy relaxing on your sofa, you could ask a machine or someone called Mac or Sue or Sanjay or one of our other tech experts on Shop Live, Curry's PC World's online video call experience.
Hi, you're talking to Ali on Shop Live.
Isn't it nice to get advice from another human being? They're just a click away. Curry's PC World. Talk to our tech experts online with Shop Live.
Get ready for the University of Bedfordshire. We've got all you need to make ambition become reality, to make lifelong friendships, to make contacts in your chosen industry, to make a name for yourself, to make it. In fact, we've got everything except your application. So get it in, sit back and relax. Wait, actually, check out our generous scholarships and bursaries for support at every step at beds.ac.uk. Okay, now you can relax.
What have you missed the most? A haircut? A visit to the shops?
Oh, you look lovely in that.
What about a nice lunch?
Fish and chips, please.
Salt and vinegar with that.
Or an afternoon in a pub garden? Fancy a casual bike ride? Or perhaps something a little more intense? Or maybe you want a relaxing day out. Whatever you've missed, get out there and enjoy it again safely. Find out how at gov.uk/enjoy summer safely.
Wanna bet football can make you feel nostalgic?
Playing days are over, so...
On the podcast, NFL Alumni Lounge, Charlie Booth sits down with retired NFL legends to talk about their careers, life after football, and everything in between.
Mr. Darren Waller, good to have you.
Yes, sir, it's good to be here.
Dana White, welcome to the Alumni Lounge.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Big member of our NFL alumni family, the CEO of the XFL, Mr. Oliver Luck.
Charlie, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
We're here with the president, Mr. Eric Price. Good to see you.
Search NFL Alumni Lounge on TuneIn to listen.
We're all guilty of spending too much time on social media. Why not add something genuinely useful to your feed with TuneIn? Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to learn about some of the best stuff happening around the app. You might just discover your next audio obsession.
Who says you can't have a laugh while getting serious about America's pastime? On the daily podcast Locked On MLB, comedian and baseball fanatic Paul Francis Sullivan talks about each team, each pennant race, and everything else in the game. From rule changes and controversies to baseball cards and stadium food.
For those of you who are not familiar with me or the old show, I love to obsess over baseball. I'm talking baseball over the Super Bowl. We had a TV showing the division series during my wedding.
Search Locked On MLB on TuneIn to listen today.
Where do sports, culture, and basketball nostalgia collide? On their podcast, Knuckleheads, NBA veterans Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles sit down with athletes, musicians, and entertainers to get brutally honest, totally unguarded conversations about everything from current events to untold stories from the golden era of sports.
Shaquille O'Neal. You know that, right? I tried to tip dunk all the free throw line one time.
Search Knuckleheads on TuneIn to listen.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Number of after-the-bell headlines to pass along. Civil rights organizations are criticizing Facebook following a meeting with the company's top executives, claiming Facebook has not taken seriously demands to better police its service from hate speech and misinformation. Fed Vice Chair Richard Clarida says the Federal Reserve can do more and will do more if needed. His remarks coming in an interview with CNN International. Levi Strauss shares they're down now.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, time's up for today. So hopefully all my followers had a good day, yeah? Because we made today for you over £2,000. So I'll speak to you tomorrow, as always, from 8 o'clock UK time. Have a great evening. Bye for now.
$18.94 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.4%, $40.46 an ounce. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thanks very much. Well, this story is among our most read. We've been talking about it all day long. It's about how President Trump's pandemic response is turning America first into America last. Nick Wadhams is foreign policy reporter at Bloomberg News. He wrote it. He joins us on the phone from Maryland. Nick, I really mean it. It's a most read story because I think with everything going on, we need to look at it not just on a national level, but really on a global level in terms of what is America's place on the global stage. Tell us a little bit about your reporting and what you found out.
Sure. The story, the origination of the story was with the decision by the European Union last week to say that Americans could not travel to the EU as the bloc is opening up to international travelers because the pandemic is so out of control here. And this had long been an issue I'd been thinking about. You know, as the pandemic continues in the U.S., would the U.S., which has typically been a real driver of economic growth and recovery in times of trouble,